Good morning. Welcome on in, DJ and PK on this Thursday morning. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, did you watch it last night? Did you see it? Oh, what do you think? That would be the Jazz. How about the Jazz destroying the Los Angeles Clippers? Well, obviously, we will get to that this morning. Wow, what a debut for the 25-26 Utah Jazz. You couldn't ask for more. But, you know, we also got college football, all right? Big games this week for sure. Absolutely. We're going to let you hear from BYU. We got the sound from their practice yesterday and who they had made available. Started off with defensive coordinator Jay Hill.
7-0, kind of midway point of the season. What's your overall assessment of the defense at this point? What have you liked, and maybe what's working for you guys?
Well, we've had moments where we were outstanding, and then moments where we got to clean things up. 7-0. If you'd asked me that at the start of the year, I would have taken it for sure. I think statistically speaking, we're doing a lot of great things, and then, like I say, there's some things that we can still clean up right now.
Compared to last year, where do you guys feel like you've improved?
Well, I think we're better in the scheme right now. When we have all of our veteran dudes in there, I think we're really, really good. We're more stout inside than we were a year ago. I think there's just an overall better understanding of just what we're trying to get accomplished.
It seemed like you were using Nusi Tamoipeo a lot last game. Mm-hmm. What strides has he shown you, and what's earned him the increased playing time?
Oh, well, he's going to be a phenomenal player, and right now he just keeps getting better and better. He's got great athleticism, he's got great physicality, and he's going to be a person that the fans love and adore for the next couple years.
So has it just been a matter of time for him in the Tulsa League?
So Nusi had some injury issues early in camp that we've been working through, and now he's back healthy, so that was a lot of his. And then, you know, both of them is just a matter of getting them more familiar with the scheme and trying to get them in positions where they can be successful.
Talking about the interior defensive line, has Justin been what you hoped he would be coming in and bolstering that interior?
Oh, yeah. I think Justin and Keanu and JT and Anisi and those guys have done a phenomenal job all year in there. But, yeah, I mean, we brought Justin in for a reason. He's doing a lot of great things.
Rocco Beck's just kind of the latest of these quarterbacks you're facing in the Big 12. What do you see from him?
Well, every team has one, right? Every team has a good quarterback. Every team has wideouts. Every team, this team has really good tight ends. So I love Rocco Beck's competitive nature. He can throw it. He can run it. He's really smart. Rarely does he go to the wrong spot with the ball. So, I mean, he looks like a guy that's played a lot of snaps in the Big 12 and started a lot of games.
Have you ever gone up against Matt Campbell coach team before?
Yeah, in 2023, and we got our butts kicked. So we got a lot to prove. Those guys came in here a couple years ago and did a lot of great things against us.
When Jay Drew asked Aaron about this yesterday, I was kind of reiterating the question. Like, from that point, you guys have never lost a game by more than a possession. Was that kind of a turning point in a way with that game?
Well, since that point, I think we've been very good. I think that was a growing up game in the Big 12 and trying and understanding of what it's like to play in the Big 12 week after week after week after week. And when you get banged up and you don't have depth and bad things happen, then you got a chance of getting your butt kicked. And we fixed a lot of those issues through recruiting and just getting more depth. We fixed a lot of those issues through understanding of just knowing what to expect week in and week out, and the physicality of the Big 12.
On Coordinator's Corner, you talked about Jack and his fighting back to be able to play against Utah. Was he as good, better? Like, where did you kind of evaluate his plays versus what you expected him coming off that injury?
Well, you know, if you look at him on the sack that was so critical on fourth down, he looked like a freak and come off the edge super fast, looked like Jack, and then there were times where it looked like his shoulder was hurting him still. This week, he looks way better than last week. The week before, I don't know that anybody could have been in their practice, and he was. He's a tough dude that is already back off an injury where most people would not be back right now.
So your safeties were super active on Saturday. They were the two leading tacklers, which is kind of atypical for the defense. What kind of brought that about? Were you putting them in positions to be more active against Utah? Was that a scheme thing?
Well, I think that was a thing where they recognized a lot of the things that were happening. They made plays. They do a great job of film study. I think Tanner and Faletau played great all year, so that did not surprise me that those guys played really well in that game. And, Raiders been right there in the mix too. That safety group has played really good this year.
You hoping to have Raider back soon, or is it still very
soon? Yep, very soon.
And then staying in the secondary with the corners, Bamba had the big play on 4th down. Trey's flashed this year. Johnson's been really good. Just what are your thoughts on the secondary with the corners?
Well, Coach Guilford does a great job with those guys, and we got 3 or 4 guys that we really feel we can win with. Getting Cabella back and moving more in that direction solidifies that group. Tavion has done a lot of great things for us, so that group just continues to get deeper and deeper with the reps that those guys have been getting.
Then we'll go to Logan Lutui, the defensive lineman, right? And here it is. Take a listen.
Tell me about emotions after beating Utah and just what the week's been like so far.
I think it was a great team win. I think it was good for us to go out and have a statement win like that. We felt like we played a good game, a good, clean game on all 3 phases. We know that, there's always room for improvement, but overall we feel good. We're in a good position moving forward. Yeah.
You guys had 3 sacks against Utah's offensive line, which was super highly touted coming in. What does that do for your group, confidence-wise, to do that against a unit that's so good and so highly esteemed?
Yeah, I think it just shows of who we are. I think up to that point we've been getting close to sacks. Never really been able to finish, so it was good to actually have it all come together. And even in that game, we left some out on the field too, so it just shows us of where we could be. So we're still moving forward, yeah.
So it's one of those things, like it creates momentum to kind of break that barrier down and get more sacks in the future, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Tell me about going against a guy like Rocco Becht, really solid veteran quarterback.
Yeah.
Do you do anything differently when you know it's a guy who's played a lot of Big 12 football, or is it kind of the same type of preparation?
For us, we take it the same way. We take preparation the same way. But yeah, Rocco's a really great quarterback from what we've watched in film. He's able to really coordinate his offense well. I think if we get to where we're supposed to be with our game plan, we have a really good game plan. So being able to iron out all the details this last couple practices, I think we'll be in a really good position.
Obviously, the defense is playing well, being 7-0 and all, but how would you assess the defense at this point of the season, and how do you think it compares to last year?
Last year we went 9-0, so I think we're on that same path. I think for us, the biggest thing with our defense is execution. We have the pieces to be a really great defense, but it all comes down to everybody doing their part, making the plays when the play comes to you, executing the assignment that you have, and I think everybody's taking that pretty well. So I'm really impressed by our defense so far.
What have you seen from Iowa State's offense? Maybe that's jumped out on film, or what are you kind of focusing on there?
They're fast and physical. I think that's something that we ourselves like to play. That's a way that we like to play as well. So we pride ourselves in being physical, and we see that in their offense and how they play. They like to play fast, and so it's going to be a good challenge for us to show what we got and to continue making these statement games against really great opponents.
I know he's on the other side of the ball, but there's been a lot of national media attention on Bear. He did SportsCenter, and he's just kind of the talk of the country right now. What is that like to see a freshman come in and take command of the team and to become this kind of media phenomenon from your angle?
Yeah, he's been a great quarterback. I don't think I've ever seen a freshman quarterback do what he's been doing, coming in basically 2 weeks before fall camp, taking control of that offense, and just week by week progressing the way he has been. And I think it's really comes down to the way he prepares, and that's something I really respect about Bear, is that it's not just a fluke. It's something that he's been training for a long time, and I'm just glad that he's able to perform and show everybody what he's been training so hard to be.
You talked about Iowa State being physical and just a very aggressive team. That was kind of on display 2 years ago when they came here and beat you guys pretty bad. And how does that game affect what you guys do this week? Is that just kind of that motivation to get back and maybe make a statement in Ames, or does that even factor in at all?
Yeah, I think that's something that we haven't forgotten about. Even us being wherever we're at right now, that's something that we still remember pretty clearly. So we know that they came in here and they did such a great job, and we didn't really answer back the way we wanted to. So we're great. We don't get many second chances, so we're grateful that we do, and we're gonna make the most of it, and so that's what we're prepared for.
You guys have only lost 4 games since that loss. Does that feel like a turning point for the program where it was like, hey, like we're better than this. We can rise up and do better?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I think that comes back to just being a team and playing as a team. The big name of the game on that game was turnover. So since then, we've been a really great team at keeping the ball and not turning the ball over, playing physical, executing, and, yeah, we've just been able to tighten up since then.
Logan, I came in late, so I apologize if this has been asked, but it seems like the defensive end group, you got you, the old guy, and a bunch of freshmen.
Yeah, exactly.
How's that dynamic been for you?
It's been good, yeah. Like I said, we have a really great group in our defensive end room. We have a lot of young talent, really talented young men, and I think that's a good place where I can be, is just to share what I know with them and being able to just learn from them as well. It's been a great experience.
How's Newsy specifically been? What has he done that's impressed you this year? And him arriving to play a pretty significant role last game against the Utah.
Yeah, he's somebody that also came in very skilled. Someone that I've been impressed by his physicality, the way he plays the game. Is as a freshman and as young players, you don't play the game as fast as he does. And that's a common theme among all of the freshmen that came into our team, including Bear, and they just stepped up to the plate, played their role, and when their name is called, they've been able to make the plays that were needed.
There you go. That's your BYU stuff. Well, you know what we got coming up next? As we do every week, we hear from one of our experts, and he is Riley Jensen. We will get to that. Stay with us right here on the KSL Sports Zone. Absolutely on that. First, we need to tell you about one thing, that you can join Hans and Scotty G tomorrow from noon to 3 p.m. at RGS Exteriors at 4235 Farm Road in West Jordan. Riley Jensen coming up next.
We are joined now by Riley Jensen, the former Aggie quarterback. Riley, good morning.
Good morning, guys. What's happening?
Well, the rivalry game is in the rearview mirror. BYU is one of 6 undefeated teams in the country, and Kalani sat down at the podium and talked about losing 2 games after beating the Utes a year ago. He wants it to be different. How different do you think it can be? What shot do they have to win at Iowa State and remain unbeaten going into the bye week?
Well, shoot, I mean, this week is the toughest one. You have a huge win against a rival. You're going against a really, really tough Iowa State. I don't think they're not ranked right now, are they? They used to be.
No.
But they're a really good team. They're 5-2. Yeah, they're a really good team. It's a hard place to play. I have a lot of respect for their coach, and they do a lot of good things. And I know how much that coach said he respected Kalani. But this is going to be a really, really tough week. But man, if you can win this game, go into a bye week, get healed up, and make a run. I mean, you guys were the ones that pointed out. Excuse me. You're the ones who pointed out how tough, this mid-October to November stretch was, and it's very, very difficult. But man, if they can squeak this game out, get to the bye week, there's going to be a lot of excitement going around the state of Utah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Big game for the Utes. I wanted to ask you a question about Bear Bachmeier, and with that, we had on Steve Young, and he's saying it. I've heard a number of people, I'm sure you think of it, that the advancement of the quarterback in general has been far greater than it used to be with this year-round stuff that they do and all the training and blah, blah, blah. So with that in mind, and you've been able to, you've trained quarterbacks over the years, so you could see it at the very beginning, at the rawest level. I mean, literally, you're probably 10, 11, 12 years old in terms of the advancements. So as it relates to Bachmeier, do you think that he's an exception, or is it something that you can more readily understand because of the advancements that we've seen? And for him, he's doing it, but it's about the opportunity that he's allowed to do it, and a lot of them don't even get that opportunity. So is it an unusual, or is it more normal, but we just don't see it as much because freshmen don't typically play?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think this is more of a trend. I mean, I was surprised that there's only like 4 quarterbacks that have started and gone 7-0 as a freshman or something like that. I've been seeing that all over Twitter. But I'll say this: he is one of those quarterbacks that is kind of uniquely qualified to do something like this. He has older brothers that have played quarterback at the Division I level. He is a bigger, stronger, developed kid for an 18-year-old. I mean, he's all of 220 pounds. He runs physical. He can take big hits. I mean, that hit from Barton, that reminded me so much of my knockout blow at Washington, because the head just twisted around. I mean, that was a knockout shot, and he didn't even come out of the game. I mean, this is a big, strong kid that is prepared in some unique ways. I mean, I think his older brother could really prepare him for some things that maybe he hasn't prepared for. I think that he was probably exposed to some of the pressure that happens as a Division I quarterback that maybe a lot of people haven't been exposed to, because he watched his brothers go through some starting situations both at Boise State and Wake Forest. And then you throw in all the preparation that takes place for young quarterbacks now with quarterback coaches and with all that kind of stuff. And look, there's a lot of us out there. I mean, Dustin Smith is out there preparing quarterbacks. I'm out there preparing quarterbacks. There's some quarterback coaches up north here in the state of Utah. But I think the real difference is they're getting so many reps in like 7-on-7 type situations that, because look, I can only do so much as a quarterback coach. You know, you can only do so much of getting their footwork right and getting their arm angle right and like get them off to a good start when they're young. But then there's these pressure reps that happen in these 7-on-7 things and in these different things that are really unique. And so I think the question is really, really good. Yes, I think there's going to be more quarterbacks that do this because more of them are going to be prepared. But I also think that Bear is an exception because of some of the unique circumstances that have been developed in his life.
We talk about quarterbacks because we can't help ourselves. And certainly the way Bear's throwing the ball, I mean, his completion percentage is sort of almost 63%. He's got 9 touchdowns to 3 picks, and he just passes the eye test. But when the question came to A-Rod this year, you know, about running the ball, and I mean, he leaned into it multiple times. We will run the ball. And now they're over 230 yards a game. L.J. Martin has been fantastic. Bear Bachmeier has a ton of yards running the ball. They've spread some other yardage around, even though they've had injuries to the backup, you know, and they use the fly sweep and all that kind of stuff. I mean, if you're one of the top 10 teams in the country and the 3 service academies are a given, it's like they are running the ball 230 yards a game. That's just a massive number, Riley. I wonder if you ever played for a team that ran the ball for 200 yards a game.
Never.
That's very impressive.
No, 230 yards a game. And look, listen, A-Rod is he is a quieter guy. He's not one of those guys that like demands like attention or notoriety for like what he's doing. But I mean, I think we got to give a lot of credit to this guy. One of the things that I love about A-Rod is every single quarterback that he has worked with since he's been at BYU has gotten considerably better from year 1 of playing with him to year 4 of playing with him. He's now put 2 NFL quarterbacks out. Well, actually 3. I mean, because you got to count, you know, I just spaced his name, the transfer from USC that came from Pitt as well. He's in the NFL. Yeah, you got Slovis there. You got 3 guys in the NFL. You have Bear Bachmeier, who has every fingerprint and indication that he's going to go to the NFL. But then, to the point, and I'm talking about quarterbacks again because we love to talk about quarterbacks. But then you go and you start looking at the ability to run the football, the innovation with the offense. I mean, I think that A-Rod has been super innovative with his offense clear since Zach Wilson, where he kind of let Zach Wilson be Zach Wilson. And so I'm I'm way impressed with A-Rod. I think that he has been a fantastic offensive coordinator and a fantastic addition. You know, and people give a lot of credit to John Beck, and I love John Beck. I mean, I've taken my own kid down to John Beck, but the real advancement at the quarterback position in this offense takes place when they're doing, you know, blitz pickup, and when they're doing run game in their practices, and when they're doing 7-on-7 and really developing these quarterbacks and running backs into something that can be really good. And let's give a little bit of credit to the new offensive line coach as well, who's really brought a mentality. LJ Martin is a legitimate running back. I mean, we were watching the game, and my mother-in-law and my wife are way into football now because my son's into it. They're like, well, what makes this guy so good? Like, he's really good. And I'm like, look at his legs from the waist down. His legs are gigantic. I mean, that guy just has a real push and a forward lean to him that's exciting to watch. The offensive line is nasty. I loved how they carried Bear Bachmeier into the end zone there, you know, for the winning touchdown. I mean, there's some good pieces that have come together for BYU right now, and they're a really good football team. And I think you have to give A-Rod a ton of credit because he is just quietly and consistently put together like really, really good teams. And I think part of the reason why he wanted to have the run game so solid this year is so that he could bring Bear up to speed in a way that still builds his confidence. And that's exactly what they've done. And now Bear's making some throws like that throw to Chase Roberts down the sideline for a touchdown, for their first touchdown. I mean, that's an NFL throw. I mean, recognizing that it's man-to-man and then throwing it right over the top, and Chase catches the ball and it looked like an easy throw. That's a really tough throw. And so there's some really good things going on for BYU right now.
I know BYU has an excellent defense. There's no question about that. As far as Utah's offense, with their inability to get the ball downfield through the air, have they become too predictable? Did I say Utah's offense, I mean?
Well, I think there's some interesting things from the game that were indicators that they're just a little bit off. First of all, they ran the ball for 200. I mean, they had a ton of running yards. They were pounding the rock, and then decided to go for it on fourth down and missed some opportunities to put points on the board that I think might have given their guys like a little bit of confidence. I'm not trying to be real critical of Devin because I really like the way he plays football. I just don't think he's a natural passer. I think This is a guy that is a really good runner who can develop into a better passer, but I don't think it's a natural feel for him. And so I don't know that they're too predictable. This is still a really good football team to me that is going to have something to say about the Big 12 championship before it's over. But I just felt like they just weren't able to make the plays to win this game. I don't know that it was that bad of a game plan. And I think Dampier's going to get better and better at throwing the ball. I just don't think it's his natural state of being to be a big, sit in the pocket, throw the ball. But there were times where, man, he had so much time to throw the ball. This offensive line for the University of Utah is ridiculously good. Ridiculously good.
On the other side of the ball, the Utah defense is good. But there is a clear Achilles heel developing here, or two actually. Two different scenarios are related over the last year and a half. One is they get a fourth quarter lead and the D can't get the stops protected and win the game. BYU was behind. They score twice. They win the game. Last year, BYU comes from behind to win the game in the fourth quarter. Houston comes from behind the game to win the fourth quarter. Iowa State comes behind to win in the fourth quarter. The other scenario where is the offense struggles, but they get it to a one-possession game, and then in the fourth quarter, but the D can't get a stop, and it goes back to two possessions, and the offense can't win the game. It happened against Arizona last year. It happened against Arizona State last year, and that's what happened in the Texas Tech game this year where they gave up 3 fourth-quarter touchdowns. So even if I let last year go, 3 fourth-quarter touchdowns against Texas Tech, 2 allowed against BYU, what can be done for a defense that is clearly good to make winning plays in a fourth quarter and protect leads?
Yeah, I look. I think it's really tough to put this on the defense when they're only giving up. I mean, with the exception of the Texas Tech game, the defense has been lights out. You only give up 24 points in a game in the Big 12. That should be a W. At least that's how defensive coaches are probably thinking. Here, this is a hard one because, I just coached a Little League football team that started out 4-0, and then we lost our last 5, and we're done. And here, I'm supposed to be a mental performance coach, and we lost 3. Like once we were 4-0, we lost 3 games by a total of 10 points. They were all close games. They were all heartbreakers, and then the wheels just came off. And I'm supposed to be a mental performance coach, so here I am, giving my thoughts on how you help a defense. But you watch them play, and Peyton Manning has said this before. He says every single game is won with 4 or 5 plays in the game. There are 4 or 5 plays that win a game. And he says the problem is you don't know which play they are going to be. And so you have to be focused in on every play. And the thing that I would say if I was talking to the University of Utah defense or even talking to the University of Utah offense or the whole team is you got to put your signature on each play. And sometimes they're just really, really small plays that don't matter. But what it is it's one guy here or one guy there that doesn't make the play, right? And we all put our signature on, a marriage license, a house mortgage, a car, a big contract for your work, all that kind of stuff. We put our signature on big things, but what leads to those big signatures is a small signature of every single day. What are you doing in practice? What are you doing to communicate a little bit better? What are you doing to make the play in practice when you don't feel like it because it's mid-season and you're hurt and everybody has all kinds of hurt muscles and they're playing through difficult things. And so there has to be this personal pride that you're going to be focused on every single play. And that starts in practice, that starts in the weight room, that starts in lots of different ways. But to make the play on Saturday and be the guy that makes the play for your team, you have to have that personal pride that mowing the corner of your grass matters even though nobody can see it, if that makes sense.
Oh, heck yeah, Riley. Absolutely. Personal pride. I'm down with that.
I'm 0-5. I don't remember going 0-5 even on bad teams. So I'm 0 for my last 5. So take it for what it's worth.
Yeah, I think it's time to make a change in the coaching staff, but we'll get to that later.
I think about it all the time. If I was a Division I coach right now, I'm dying. I don't even know where to hide. They're killing me. They're killing me in the neighborhood. They're killing me everywhere I go.
You have $10 or $20 million. You can go anywhere in the world and get away.
Fair enough.
Want to get away?
Fair
That
enough.
That doesn't placate it. That's just
it really doesn't.
The pain.
Not as a competitor, it doesn't placate it. Even the money doesn't placate it.
Money does. I mean, it's the byproduct, but the intoxication that comes from winning cannot be purchased by money.
Well,
it's a drug.
I hear what you say.
It is absolutely.
Yeah. Riley, I hear it really is. Yeah, the stuff that gets
like a
released
good round
in
of
your brain.
golf, man.
Yeah,
you can't buy it.
Well, Riley, I think we ought to make it clear the Utah defense is good, and you're right about the 24 points. The question is, everybody wants that winning, and so your corner of the lawn, what can you do to be better? And we are talking about going from good to great, right? 24 points, that's a good performance. But if you're great, then you can win the game. And maybe it's not fair that they should be asked to be great, but I got to imagine when they're coming off the field after they give up a drive and a score that costs them the lead, you shouldn't be behind if you've only given up 17 points, but you still just gave up the lead, and there's got to be a hole in the in the pit of your stomach.
Well, look, this is. I'm not giving them an excuse. For me, from the outside, I'm just going, this is a really good defense. They should.
It is.
But if you want to put the nails to him a little bit, this is the way Utah's always won. They've always said, don't turn the ball over, play decent offense, and our defense is going to win it for you. So if that's the way, if that's been your recipe for winning, then yeah, you don't have anybody to look at but yourself, because the offense is playing close enough to win, and the defense isn't making the big play that they normally make. And some of these plays are momentum changers. I've talked about it before. And Tony Parks brought this up to me a long time ago. Like, a dropped interception is a huge momentum change in college football, because it goes in the books as a pass breakup, and it goes in the books as like a good defensive play. But what it does to a team and what it does to the momentum of the game is like a huge missed play or getting a fumble. These things, they haven't. The defense hasn't seemed to have that timely play that University of Utah defenses normally have, and that's where, that becomes a momentum statistic, because Utah and I'm talking about like they used to be. We are talking about good to great here, right? But to get that momentum back, they need some defensive plays that lead to wins right now, and they need a sack, they need an interception, they need a fumble, they need something at the end of a game that makes them feel like they're that Utah defense that just dominates when they need to. And that's where they've got to make that emphasis in practice. Maybe it's an emphasis on like really going for a strip fumble, really getting yourself in position at the end of games to make those plays. But they've got to make a play. They've got to make a play.
Lobo fans going to show up to boo your boy Bronco? How hostile can it be in Albuquerque?
Oh, yeah, I mean, there's going to be plenty of people booing. It might be 10,000. Yeah. Which is why he left. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. It's why he left. That game, for Hawaii, last week against San Jose State was a really, really fun game. I watched every single play.
Yeah, me too.
And they're a fun football team to watch. Like,
agreed.
This is a team that's playing with some energy and with some focus that hasn't been there in a few years. And so if you're a Utah State fan, I was really excited about that game. That was a fun game for me to watch. They're disciplined. They make plays. They have some guys that can make some plays. And so, yeah, New Mexico will be there to boo, and then they're going to lose to Utah State.
There you go. All right. Hey, Riley, we appreciate it as always. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Love your guts, man. Have a great day.
All right, there you go. That was Riley Jensen. And, hey, I want to tell you something else, too. I want to tell you about nominating the youth sports volunteer that you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week. You can submit your nomination at kslsports.com/contest and listen every Thursday afternoon. That's today. To JJ and Alex for the winner. Help us celebrate the efforts of those volunteers making an impact with the Hercules Hero of the Week. And it's sponsored by Hercules First Federal Credit Union and Beehive Meals. We're going to get you all the jazz sound. Stay with us right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Good morning. Welcome on in, DJ and PK. DJ had the soccer last night. As you know, Arcel was in Portland, so, he's getting back. I don't know, maybe he'll show up, or maybe he's going to sleep in, because I know he got back just a couple hours ago with the travel back. But how about the Jazz? Man, did they look good? They literally might not play a better game all season. They just demolished the Clippers. Everybody. Walker Kessler looked good. Markkanen looked good. Keontae George, Sensabaugh. Wow. What more can you say? All right, here is the best of the Jazz postgame right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jazz recap here on DJ and PK, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jake Scott with you. The Jazz win. They're 1-0. Smoked the Clippers 129-108. Came out of the gate firing, outscoring the Clippers in the first quarter 43-19, and did not look back on their way to the 129-108 victory. Jazz were led by Walker Kessler at 22 points. 9 boards, 4 assists, and 4 blocks in the win. Let's get things started with post-game sound and hear from Jazz head coach Will Hardy.
It was a heck of a team win. I thought our group was really connected on both sides of the ball, and the guys competed from the very beginning of the game. It was so great to be back in this building. I thought our crowd was incredible tonight. But ultimately, I thought they fed off the energy of the team. for us to play with that level of activity defensively, 11 steals for us is a lot. I thought we were active with our hands. I thought we were flying around and communicating. We did a good job protecting the paint for the majority of the game. And then the offensive side of the ball sort of speaks for itself. I mean, 38 assists is an incredible number. I recognize that means we made a bunch of shots, but I thought we got a lot of good looks, and it was a lot of different people. We had 6 guys in double figures, 2 people with 9, 1 with 8. That's who we are. It's who we have to be. We're a team. And I thought everybody that was on the floor contributed tonight. There's obviously some individual performances that can be highlighted. I thought Keontae did a heck of a job for us with 9 assists, 3 turnovers. I thought he played a really good overall floor game. I thought Walker was tremendous. His activity was great, but ultimately it was a great team win. That being said, there's plenty of things to improve, and I want the team, and I want our fans, and I want everybody to enjoy this win tonight, and then it's back to work tomorrow. There's a lot of things that we can continue to get better at. The rebounding tonight, there were some offensive rebounds that got away from us. They ended up with 25 second chance points, but I think overall it was a great first showing for our group. Hopefully you guys can feel the energy and the competitive spirit of this team. I think it's something that our fans are going to be proud of.
You've talked about youth being, the team is called young, but you can use youth as a positive as well.
Mm-hmm.
And, the Clippers are obviously a very veteran team. How do you flip that switch to make the youth, not a liability, but a positive thing for the team?
Yeah, I think we talked today, as a team about that very thing, that we need to reframe that in our brains. And if we're a little short on experience, we can still be high on energy. And I think that if we're going to play 10 people, we should be a team looking to just try to wear you down. And there's no pacing. There's no, I'm going to play this long run and I'm going to ease into it. And I thought that showed tonight. It can be a real strength that we're going to play 10 people and that we're going to play really, really hard while we're learning. And so we talked with the team about, let's try to dictate the tempo of the game. And we felt like they wanted to play more of a methodical style, and we wanted to try to keep their bodies moving and keep the ball moving, try to push the tempo in transition, and I thought for the most part we did that. We have to always try to look at who we are and not focus on what we are not in this moment. It's something that I try to say to myself when I'm evaluating our players and our team. It's like, what can they do? What does this group do on the floor now while we're trying to get better at some of the other things? It doesn't mean that I always do that perfectly. Sometimes it's easy to get caught up in the things that aren't happening, but I want our team, I want our fans, I want everybody to focus on who we are right now, because I think there's a lot to be proud of.
How does the big-to-big passing kind of open up the rest of the offense?
Bigs that can pass are a luxury, because it gives you so many different ways to play. I think the passes over the top to other bigs, you see Lowry get a lot of the catches above his head. It's just trying to use what we have, but we don't want our team in this moment to turn into a style where it's one person making all the decisions. I don't think that's what's best for our group. I don't think that's ultimately how we're built. I also think that the team enjoys playing a style where everybody's involved. I mean, if you read down the assist column, it's 5, 5, 4, 3, 9, 2, 2, 3, 5. I mean, everybody's in the mix, and it's the responsibility, if you have the ball, to just try to make a good decision so we can get a good shot, because you trust that the other guys are going to do it too, and that we'll look up at the end of the game and you'll have 6 guys in double figures because we all got shots. But bigs that can pass is a luxury. It's something Walker's been working on a bunch. I expect there to be some ups and downs, but again, it's trying to look at who we have and what we think can be strengths right now.
You guys are young, but you have a lot of these guys that have played 2 and 3 years together now. Are you seeing that continuity kind of start to pay off? Absolutely.
I think there's so many things that are unspoken on the court between teammates. We've talked a lot in the preseason about the time the guys spent together in the summer. Trust off the court breeds trust on the court. So I think you're seeing some of that too. It's just kind of the human trust element, but definitely as players, when you look at it, a lot of these younger players have played a bunch together. And that's not just in the games, that's practices and pickup games in the summer, some of them in summer league. So definitely having, a group of players that have been together for a couple of years always helps. I mean, I think if you look around the league, you look at past teams here, the teams that have had longer term continuity, it always feels a little bit different.
That's Jazz head coach Will Hardy. Let's now move on to the players. Let's start off with rookie Walter Clayton Jr.
Just get that first game under your belt.
Man, it felt good. Obviously, just spent a lot of time in the gym working with these guys. So get out there and, get a win for the first game. It's a great feeling.
Walker's talked about your rebounding like you did last week. Came up with 6 again tonight. How do you just continue to keep perfecting that skill?
The coach is telling me to crash, so any chance I get, I'm trying to crash down there, grab one, be better at just blocking out, bigger guys. So just a lot of the coaching, I'm trying to listen to it.
What stood out about your guys' defensive effort tonight?
The fact that we got them to do what we wanted them to do. I think everybody was disciplined. We was in the right spots at the right time.
The way that you guys hit the floor running and started so quickly, has the anticipation just been building in practice to get out there and play ball?
Definitely. It's been a few months, getting after, together. But, obviously we're a younger team, so that's one of the things we need to use to our advantage, just tempo.
A lot of veteran players on the Clippers you probably grew up watching. Was that just awesome to go out there and go toe-to-toe with those guys?
Definitely was awesome. Obviously there was some legends on the court tonight, so, it was a great feeling to be out there playing with them.
That's Walt Clayton, 10 points in his NBA debut. He also had 6 boards and 5 assists. Let's now hear from Kyle Filipowski.
Confidence we have with our team, how good we think we can be this year. It's a statement to everyone else too. We're not here to get pushed around anymore. I think, just everyone being locked in and everyone trying to really build something this year with this group and how good we can be. It's something that could really skyrocket.
See things clicking on defense, especially in that first quarter, pretty crazily, but also 38 assists between all of you guys. The ball was moving like a hot rock tonight. How was that for you?
I mean, it's a lot of fun. It's a fun way to play basketball. And to be honest, I think it's just as simple as that. I think the coaches have done a good job establishing this new offense. It kind of carries over a little bit from last year when I was here. But I think we've just taken it to the next step. And, like I said, it's just a lot of fun to play that way.
And you said this gives you guys a little confidence knowing what you guys can do together. How does that work moving on forward into the season now that you actually got it done in an actual game, not preseason, now that you have it under your belt? What does that feel like?
Yeah, I mean, it's just more of a confidence builder for us. Just taking one day at a time. This was a great win for us, a great statement for the first game of the season, and now we get to keep doing it again and again. So I think now it's just back to the drawing board and just staying locked in with this team and really just focusing on those important things within our group.
Thanks, Flip.
That is Flip. Flip had 9 points, 5 assists, 4 rebounds in the win. The Jazz dismantle the Clippers 129-108. Next up, the Jazz take on the Kings in Sacramento tomorrow night. Tip-off will be at 8 o'clock. Pre-game will begin at 7.
All right, Jake Scott, thanks. The Jazz, woohoo! What a debut. We'll be talking about that here. Coming up on What's Trending, stay with us right now on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone, because when we come back, we got What's Trending, get you caught up on everything NBA. That started 2 nights ago, but last night was in earnest, and we got that. Plus, we'll give you the RSL recap and all that, see what they did. Stay with us right here, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's time to get your morning started with the news you need to know. News update. News update. This is What's Trending with DJ and PK. # Utah Jazz.
Christie driving on Kessler, swatted with his left hand into the 6th row. Walker Kessler has 22 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, and a blocked shot now. Kyle spinning on the rookie, beats him badly and scores. Well, Kyle established pretty well this summer that if you're lesser caliber resume than he is, he will cook you. An absolute stunner. Back cut Hendricks dunk. John Collins gets beat on that one. Kyle Filipowski with another great pass. Jazz have 38 assists tonight, and they have 5 guys with 4 or more. Crowd comes to their feet on what was a truly marvelous night by the Utah Jazz. 129-108. Ty Lue gives Will Hardy an embrace.
Oh, my goodness. That was a masterpiece of brilliance. How about that? Is that good enough, Yak? Going back
that works.
What was... that seems like 100 years ago now when Will Hardy said that after a brutal loss. And the Jazz, what a marvelous win. All you doubters, I'm calling you to the carpet right now. You must repent or otherwise admit that you are wrong. The Jazz were absolutely incredible. I couldn't believe what these eyes were seeing. I felt like the first time Rudy's father got upon the campus of Notre Dame. I cannot
this
believe
is
what
the
these
best
eyes
sight
are
these eyes have ever seen.
Everybody played well. Even Cody Williams' 2 minutes was electric. Okay, maybe not. But the Jazz just blowing out the Clippers, man. That game was not even a game for, just about the entire time once the Jazz took the lead and ran away and hid. Now, very few times they're going to shoot 55%, but that's exactly what the Jazz did from the floor. 55%, 48 of 87. Oh, my goodness gracious. That was incredible how well they played making those baskets. And the Clippers would never even make a run. Walker Kessler, he didn't play a whole lot in the preseason, but, man, it's the go time. Did you know, Yak, he leads the league in field goal percentage right now at 1,000?
Well, there we go. Something count right now. Season's over. MVP.
He's 7 for 7, 9 boards. You heard Locke with the stats there. Even threw in 4 assists for a big man. That's impressive numbers. And Jerry Sloan was smiling from the great beyond because you get 6 fouls, and Walker Kessler used 5 of them, which shows a level of aggressiveness. He had 1 foul that wasn't very aggressive. It was kind of no man's land there on the other side of half court, but so what? And he was awesome, no doubt about it. You really got to look at him and say, is he going to take that next step? You know, we're not just talking about one game. We're talking about his ability to take that next step. Can he do it? Can he do it, 4 out of 5 games, whatever it might be, 8 out of 10 games? Certainly a great debut as far as that goes. I mean, he just looked incredible. I can't say enough about him. Clearly, he was awesome. And then the other two, Filipowski, he showed well. He only took 10 shots. Marketing, that's the kind of game that I like to see out of Marketing. A quiet game. If you score 20 and it's considered quiet, that's impressive. And you put in 4 of 7 from 3, 6 boards, 5 assists. As Locke said, 38 assists. That's a staggering number when you think about it there. I'm interested in that, and we'll talk to Locke tomorrow on Friday, that they did start Filipowski over Hendricks. I thought it was going to be Hendricks, but no. They went with Filipowski, who's a second-year guy. I mean, you can argue, obviously, the Hendricks injury last year. He's a second-year guy because he didn't play very much last year, just right at the beginning of the season with the injury that set him out the whole season. But we'll see how that develops. Sensapaw, okay, has he found a role on his team? Coming off the bench, 20 points, shoot. You're open, shoot. But the thing that impressed me, we can go down and you can look at the box score and it sort of speaks for itself. But a bunch of guys did a lot of different things. Like Walt Clayton, I guess he wants to be called Walt, not Walter, so we'll call him Walt if that's what he wants. Walt Clayton Jr. In just 18 minutes, he didn't look overwhelmed. 10 points, all right, that's nice. He's a shooter, scorer. But I like the 6 boards and the 5 assists. They were moving the ball, and the shots went in. So everything is going to be higher in the assist total and the shooting percentage. Of course it is. But also Borden, 46 boards to 38 for the Clippers. That's pretty impressive as far as that goes. All right, were they back in action Friday, tomorrow, up in Sacramento, right? Tip-off is set for 8 p.m. The Kings got beat down there in Phoenix, but they're missing one of their best guys, arguably their best guy. We'll get to that next, right now, with the NBA coming up.
#NBA. BJ with it. Sixers standing around. BJ drives it. Cut off by Anthony Simons. 5 to shoot. Maxey with it. One-on-one. Back to BJ. Right side. Open three. In the air. He got it. Edgecombe with his first tray. Boy, that two-man game was really stationed on that right side. And Edgecombe pays it off with a three.
Gets it into Wembanyama. Guarded by Washington. Wembanyama the fake. The reverse. And the foul. Wembanyama. Working Davis, spinning, taking, hitting, plus the foul.
Booker at the top of the key, backing up on Schroeder, fades from 15 and knocks it down on the left elbow. Devin Booker puts the Suns up 4. He's got 26. It's 115-111 with 36 seconds to go.
And switched on to Jeremy Grant. Shot clock is down to 6. Still beyond the three-point line. He shoves off, steps back, 3-ball. He got it! 39 for Edwards. Wolves in front. 114-112. Big-time shot by Ant in the clutch.
All right, those are some highlights around the NBA. A lot of games. I was flicking around on my DirecTV. I get my free package, and you know me and free, Yak. I got to take advantage of it.
Absolutely.
And so for the next week, you can get to watch all the games. I don't buy the NBA package because of the fact that most of the time I'm going to be watching the Jazz, and plus there's other games on that I already have money laid out. I don't want to lay out any more money. But last night was not one of those nights. I was checking it all out constantly. Let's see. Let's start with, we'll go with the Kings because that team is the Jazz's next opponent. They had a 20-point lead in the first half, but we've seen it a million times. 20-point leads in the first half, particularly on the road, sort of wither away, and the Suns got them. Beat him by 4. Devin Booker. Man, Devin Booker is in his 11th season already. That just seems hard to believe. He had 31. Now, the Kings were without Sabonis, who I believe is their best player, right? And he has a hamstring strain. They showed him on the bench there several times. So we'll see if he's available tomorrow night. As far as that goes, that'll be an advantage to the Jazz if they don't have to face him. Now, you heard in that little highlight, Edgecombe, the kid out of Baylor, VJ Edgecombe. This is an impressive stat that he had, right? He scores the most points by a rookie. I didn't even know that they could do this, but I guess there's a stat for everything. Since Wilt Chamberlain made his debut, 34 points. And that goes back in 1959 as the 76ers squeak by the Jason Tatum-less Boston Celtics. Now, we saw Edgecombe come in here with Baylor, and boy, he has an NBA body already. It's amazing that he had that as a young kid. And so Philly takes him. And that was good for the Jazz because then they got Ace Bailey. I realized Ace Bailey came off the bench, didn't really have a major impact on the game, and Edgecombe did. It's not like they could have drafted Edgecombe because he was gone. And Tyrese Maxey had 40, for those of you who are interested. Joel Embiid played 1 of 9. Only played 20 minutes. He's on a restriction, and of course Paul George is injured, so he did not play. We'll see how that goes for the 76ers. Can they be a good team? And what's that? Keita, he actually started for Boston. I assume that it was in place of Jason Tatum for the Celtics.
It seems that way.
Didn't you? He went to Utah State.
Neemias Keita, yep.
Yeah. No, he was 7 of 8 from the field for 17 points. And I don't think most people think Boston's going to do a whole lot because Jason Tatum is going to be out for most of the season, if not the whole year. How about this? How do we say his name? Didn't he change his name, the pronunciation? Yegor. What is it? What's the latest?
Yegor Dielman.
Sounds like there's an L in there.
When he came over, PK, the traditional pronunciation of his last name is Dielman, and he was very clear that it was, Demon, and then switched it back when he went to the NBA.
Okay, well, it's going to take me a while to get used to that because it took me a while to get used to how to say it last season.
Yegor Dielman. Yep, there you go.
Yeah. He had 14 points, 5 boards, 2 assists, 4 of 6 shooting. Now, obviously, the Nets are not expected to do a whole lot. We understand that. But he's a high pick. Where did he go? Did he go 8th?
Eighth overall. Yep, he was their highest of the 5 picks they'd made.
Yeah. So, nice debut for the kid. I mean, everybody liked him here. He just seemed like an innocent, great young kid. And so we'll follow his development there. For the they're not the New Jersey Nets anymore. I guess they're the
Brooklyn
Nets,
right? Yep.
Yeah, so just across the bridge there. But they're going to be one of the teams that's going to stink this year, as anticipated to stink for sure about that. And then, wow, this is a big story, Yak. This is just breaking overnight.
Well, no, not like it lasts like 30 minutes.
Yeah, well, okay, overnight. Yeah. I saw it I thought it was about an hour or so ago. Why don't you explain it, since you're up to date on it? I mean, I saw a headline, but you probably read it.
Yeah, so the FBI is out and about this morning, arresting people apparently all over the country in a big gambling investigation that includes the first one we heard about was Terry Rozier from Miami Heat, one of their guards. He has been arrested this morning, and to add to it, Portland Trailblazers head coach Chauncey Billups has been arrested this morning for investigation into this. Now, the word around Chauncey Billups is not betting on his own team, but betting on other games, apparently in the NBA, etc.
So it's a Pete Rose thing.
It kind of feels that way. Now, Pete obviously admitted to gambling on his own team, and we'll see what the investigation comes out with. Kash Patel, the FBI director, is supposed to speak at a press conference at 8 a.m. with more details on all of this.
Yeah, that is, wow. It's shocking to me that somebody like that, like Chauncey Billups, would do any form of gambling in the NBA. I mean, when we were under the auspices of the Jazz, which are not anymore, they would tell us that you could not gamble. I mean, we're way down the food chain, that you could not gamble on NBA games. Now, I've never gambled 1 cent on an NBA game, so I just looked at it and moved on because I had no temptation whatsoever to do it. It didn't interest me in the least. But they would always say that you couldn't do that. And Billups, and especially with all the crap that Pete Rose went through. I mean, obviously Pete Rose did bet on his own team, but it took for years and years for him to finally acknowledge what was absolutely true. And everybody sort of thought that with such a big, heavy ban. So there you go, and they're gonna speak at the top of the hour here locally, our time, to go from there. Wow, interesting. One other thing on the NBA, Cooper Flagg didn't have a good debut. Only scored 10, 4 of 13 for shooting as the Mavericks got smoked by the Spurs in Dallas. All right, that's a lot of NBA, and it's just begun. Oh, you also heard Anthony Edwards went off for 41. Timberwolves beat the Trailblazers. I think that game was in Portland last night. So we'll wait for the news to see how this story develops, and we'll have it for you right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Let's move on to the NFL.
Hashtag NFL.
The euphoria, the way that game unfolded, that was strictly about Dart. That was in no way, shape, or form anything that was directed at Russ. So, and I might be able to see how he might perceive that, but coming off that win and watching how he played, yeah, that wasn't any intention at all.
That is Denver Broncos coach Sean Payton, who got himself in a little bit of hot water when he said that he was hoping that the Broncos didn't see Jackson Dart, which Russ Wilson, who was with the Broncos now, is backing up Dart with the Giants, that he took it as a slight against him, and he called it classless and did the bounty gate thing. That was several years ago. That was a long time ago now, right? Sean Payton was part of with New Orleans, and so Sean Payton wants to walk that back, and there you go. He said he didn't intend, no way, shape, or form to criticize Russ. But he thinks that he can understand how Wilson may have taken it that way. So I guess we put that story to bed. Now, we have got NFL football tonight. The Vikings and the Chargers, 6:15 on Prime Video, as it usually is on the Thursday night game. And how about this? We talk about Sabonis with a hamstring strain. Now we need to talk about Washington Commanders star QB Jaden Daniels. He's got a hamstring strain. And so they will go to Marcus Mariota. And that's a Monday night game with the Chiefs. I was looking forward to that game. And maybe Mariota can play well in a limited, not in a limited, but he's been limited. He hasn't played that much. But I was looking forward to that game to see Daniels because he's an impressive young quarterback. So there you go. They won't have him on Monday. And Aaron Rodgers, yep, he doesn't see the upcoming matchup with the Green Bay Packers as quote a revenge game as he goes against the team who drafted him. Quote, I don't have any animosity toward the organization. Obviously, I wish things had been better in our last year there, but I have a great relationship with a lot of people still in that organization, and this is not a revenge game for me. I'm just excited to see some of those guys and be on Sunday Night Football again. So that's your Sunday night game, would be the Steelers against the Packers as we start to bear down and get closer to another weekend in the NFL. Okay, there you go. DJ and PK, let's move on to college football.
Hashtag college football.
Is Utah Yak the healthiest team in the history of college football?
Apparently.
Because their injury report is always, without fail, the shortest of any team that we see.
No doubt. Now, there was a bit of a change, it appears, because season-ending injuries that Utah had listed previously, as well as BYU, are no longer on these player availability reports from the Big 12. There hasn't been much clarification on if that's just it was an omission or if that's a new thing. But, yeah, Utah, 3 players in all on their availability report.
Who were they?
They would be quarterback Devin Dampier, wide receiver Tobias Merriweather, and defensive tackle Dallas Vakalahi.
Yes, now all those 3 are listed as questionable, and obviously all eyes went on the Utah quarterback Devin Dampier. As we know, Kyle Whittingham said on Monday that it was his distinct possibility that the Birdman would get in there. Now that's Bird with a Y, not with an I. You must remember that. I'm curious to see. I'm excited if he gets to play to see what he can do. But as I said earlier in the week, I do not think that Dampier should be benched by any stretch. Do I think that? They brought him in, and I think by and large he's delivered on what he was capable of doing when they brought him in. But at the same time, if he's got an injury, I don't want to hear 3 weeks after the game. Now they play Colorado, obviously, Saturday night. I don't want to hear that he was hampered like we did with Texas Tech.
I was going to say.
And then reveal it after you have a big-time win against the Sun Devils and then say, oh, he was hurt. No. I don't want to hear that. Don't tell me 3 weeks later after you lose that, oh, well, with the implication. Even if you didn't mean it was the implication, a lot of people took it as the implication. No, if he's hurt and can't go, or can't have the effectiveness. If he can't run, there really is no point in playing him because he's not going to beat you with his arm. I think we've proven that halfway through the season. So we'll see how that develops. I mean, Kyle's going to be coy with that. That's just who he is. And he's decided that the other team has a distinct advantage if they find out your quarterback can't play. I think whoop-de-doo on that, but that's where he's gotten that hole, and he's going to stay in there probably forever until he's done coaching. But hopefully Dampier can play. I don't want to see anybody get hurt. BYU listed Raider Demooney and Prasis. Those are both safeties as doubtful. They've been in that situation for a bit. And I told you the other day, I think I told you yesterday, that Jordan Tyson probably wasn't going to play. Well, he's out. Sun Devils, a big blow as far as that goes, not having their receiver, who is really good. And Colorado State's starting quarterback, Braden Fowler has left the Rams after Jay Norvell was fired. He started 28 games, expected to enter the transfer portal. Now, Jackson Purcell, is that a local kid?
Yeah, Lehigh High School. Yep.
Yeah, I recognize the name, and I knew there was a quarterback who went to Colorado State out of there. Okay, there you go. That is some of your college football. MLB, let's have it.
Hashtag Major League Baseball.
San Francisco Giants, they're going to hire the Tennessee's Volunteers coach. I guess I call him coach at the college level, but he's going to be their new manager, Tony Vitello. He's their new skipper. He's going to make MLB history as he makes the leap from college to MLB with no previous professional coaching experience. Now, Tennessee won the College World Series in 2024. And they got a really good program, obviously. And he's a single guy, no kids. He can make the move there and not have to worry about family. And away he goes. The Giants have their manager for the 26th season. That'll be interesting to see how that works. I mean, there's been other guys who've made the move. Pat Murphy, who coached, was the manager for the Brewers. He was ASU's head coach for a good number of years, several years ago.
Yeah.
But then he worked his way into professional ball, and now Vitello has no experience.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is not him jumping to the Giants organization and working his way up maybe from Double or Triple A.
Yeah,
He's going straight from Tennessee to the head job in San Francisco.
Let's see how that goes. Okay, that's your news out of the MLB. Let's move on to golf.
Hashtag golf.
The Bank of Utah Championship begins today at Black Desert. I will be there, Yak. I will be there. Now, I will not take the Concorde and fly down to St. George. I'm already here. I was over at the course yesterday and looking forward to this. It's supposed to be good enough weather the rest of the week. Excited. Max Homa's in there. Jason Day. Sahith
Theegala. Yep.
Yeah. That's some of the, I think it's a bigger name field than it was in their initial one last year. That was won by Matt McCarty, Phoenix kid, who would have gone and played his college golf at Santa Clara, I believe. He won the thing last year. The locals in there, Patrick Fishburne, they had him on the Golf Channel on the radio as I was driving down, listening to him. I think he went to Fremont High and BYU, right?
Yes, he is. He's a Fremont Silverwolf.
So, big kid. He's like 6'4", 220. Zach Blair, you've heard of him. Preston Summerhays. He has obviously Summerhays' name, playing his college golf at ASU. Got a local tie there. And then Kihei Akina. Did I say his first name right?
Kihei Akina.
Kihei.
Freshman at
Kihei
BYU.
Akina. Yeah. Now, he played last year, so he would have been at Lone Peak last year as a freshman at BYU.
Yep.
And I think he missed the cut by one single stroke.
Correct, yes.
Last year. So, Kihei Akina, he's a young phenom to keep an eye on to see where this goes as far as how good he will be. I assume he's going to be able to be on the tour. Maybe that is too early of an assumption, but that's what I'm anticipating because he's one of these kids, locally golf-wise, that I've heard about for 3 or 4 years now, well before he was out of high school, and he showed well last year. And how about this, man? This was big news yesterday. The PGA Tour is canceling the Century, which is at Kapalua, which always opens the season in January, right? It's the first weekend of January. Now, they don't have a course that's ready to go. The Plantation course has had issues with water, and I guess it's just not in good enough condition to play, so they don't have an alternative. So they will not have it. They canceled it this year. So that means, what is it, the Sony the following week?
Yep, the Sony Open on Honolulu will open the season.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the NHL.
Hashtag NHL.
Mammoth 5-2, 5-2-0. They open a road trip tonight against the Blues in St. Louis. What can they do? Will they go 1-2 on the first road trip? Is that what it was?
Correct, yes.
And then 4-0 at home at the Delta Center that they wrapped up a couple nights ago with a beautiful overtime win against the Avalanche. Now They are in St. Louis to start this road trip. The puck is dropping at 6 p.m. Coverage right here on the KSL Sports Zone begins at 5 p.m. with Hockey Night in Utah. That's our guy Adrian Denny. He's still doing that, right? And,
Correct.
He's pretty good. I usually listen to that when I can because he has a lot of information as I try to continue to get up to speed more and more with hockey. So we'll watch that. See what the Mammoth do tonight. Can they get that road win? They get a road win, 6-2, man. All right. I mean, we had high hopes for them as far as making the playoffs. Well, that's a great start. They have an opportunity to really solidify themselves. That's still early, obviously. It's way early, but why not stay ahead of the pace and be above the line the whole season so you don't have to worry about that? Okay, that is the NHL. We'll wrap it up with soccer, Yacker.
Hashtag RSL.
It's over. It is over. DJ can come back and be a part of the Sports Zone and not have to worry about the soccer anymore, as RSL went to Portland and they lost 3-2-1. 2-1 at halftime, and they could not score in the second half, and Portland added one.
No, they couldn't score. They had 2 equalizers waved off, PK, due to fouls and the like.
Fetch. But that's what happened. They had an interesting season, and now they'll have the off-season with the Millers owning them completely to see what they can do because that transition was made during the season. The season's very long. Seems like it'll be here again before you know it. It'll start up. But they're done. Season's over. So there you go. What is Trending is brought to you by Shamrock Plumbing. It's no job too big or too small. Get the personal touch with Shamrock Plumbing. Now, we got an interesting dichotomy of guests. Barry Tramel making his weekly appearance will be at 8 o'clock. 8:30, Jones, how do you say his last name? Angell?
We're going to learn together. I've heard 2 different pronunciations based on the internet search I made, so we'll see.
He is the North Carolina play-by-play broadcaster. Now, we're talking basketball. We're not talking Tar Heel football, right?
Well, it's because the Tar Heels happen to be coming to town tomorrow.
Yeah, that's interesting. They've got, it is tomorrow, right? It's not Saturday. They've got this exhibition game with BYU at the Delta Center. BYU basketball. I was watching some of that yesterday with the Media Days back there in Kansas. Now they'll be coming out and they'll have a game. That's not supposed to count, but still kind of a big deal because of North Carolina. And then at 9:05, John Walters, who's the play-by-play football broadcaster for the Iowa State Cyclones, and they're entertaining BYU on Saturday afternoon. So stay with us. There you go. That's the lineup right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's game week for the Aggies, and the KSL Sports Zone is getting you ready for kickoff. Bronco Mendenhall makes his return to Albuquerque as the Aggies hit the road for a battle against the New Mexico Lobos. Listen all week long for the best coverage of Aggie football. Then catch all the play-by-play action beginning with the Aggie pregame show this Saturday at noon on 1280 a.m. Your exclusive home for Aggie football is live on air, online, and on the KSL Sports app. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
33-16. Clayton with a steal. Outlet to Bailey. Ace big steps to the rack. Rises with the right hand. Cocks and hammers. Timeout Tyronn Lue. Utah 35. Clippers 16. Hey, how about this? Wow. Wow. Wow.
Was that a 3-row moment?
Wow! Wow! Yeah, 3 of them.
Ace Bailey had that one move. He's super athletic. He can cover a lot of ground with that long body of his, and he showed that. Yeah, that was really amazing to see what the Clippers were able to just roll over and die like they didn't want to be there. They already had the mid-season fatigue. The Jazz took the big lead and then never gave it up. That was amazing. The Clippers didn't really even make a run. They did not make a run, didn't even really show any life, any form of competitiveness. That was impressive, you got to admit. Now, What do we think about that? Game 1. I mean, you want to see them win, but do you want to see them win a lot? The draft pick and all? Well, based on one game, and that's all it is, one stinking game, the Oklahoma City Thunder are going to have a top 10 pick. For what is that worth? I don't know. There's so much left to be played, and who knows what's going to happen there. But, man, that game, if you're a Jazz fan, how do you not like that? I put that up on Facebook. What'd you think of that? Yeah. Melanie, I've seen her name out there. She's a hardcore sports fan. Great game, lots of positive. The Jazz played very connected. And Dirk Favors was there, huh? How about that? Dirk Favors. Come back. That's another thing that we keep saying. For a place, we were talking about this yesterday, for a place that doesn't get a lot of run in terms of people liking it, ex-players or players, when they get older, they seem to love it because they come back quite often. So, Cooper, a lot of their recent losing seasons started with a win in Game 1. Wait until the new year to see where this team is headed. Okay, that gives you a fair amount. I think there's checkpoints along the way, though. Don't you, Yak? We have to wait till New Year's. I think we can go Thanksgiving, Christmas.
Oh, absolutely.
I think there's opportunities to see. There's a bunch of games between now and January 1.
And the other thing is this opening slate of games is one of the softer portions of the Jazz schedule if you just go simply by the on paper type deal. So they may get off to a little quicker of a start, but to your point, PK, by Thanksgiving we'll have an idea. By Christmas, and then maybe by the All-Star break, we'll have these checkpoints that we'll be able to check in on.
Yeah. There you go. Daniel, seeing the look on the Clippers' faces when Lowry kept getting alley-oop dunking on them in the first quarter was awesome. Walker nails an open three. I wish the Jazz played this good every game. Well, if they played that well every game, then they are going to the postseason.
And who would care about a pick at that point if you're in the playoffs?
Yeah, that's something to think about as the storyline develops. Either get in the playoffs or make sure that you keep the pick, But what I felt that this team, as far as the draft pick, has enough talent to get themselves beyond the pick. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Where they can lose the pick. It seems to me, and I felt this all along, just when the team was put together and trying to analyze it. I'm not ready to say this is a playoff team by any stretch, but the idea of 17 wins, it seems to me this team has more talent than that. I feel confident in saying that there's more talent than 17 wins. And what does that mean? There's going to be some crappy teams this year for sure, because the system, as much as it stinks, it basically calls for that. That's the way to get better. There's not a lot of player movement, signings of free agents that you can get and turn the corner on your franchise with one or two players that you might be able to sign in the offseason. So how else are you going to do it? Nate, you got to draft and then you got to develop, right? There's just really no other way. I mean, college teams now have more of an opportunity to change their fortunes quicker than NBA teams do.
Oh, yeah.
I was listening.
100%.
Right. I mean, that's crazy when you think about it, but that's the reality of the situation. I was listening. I said I watched I think it was on ESPN2 yesterday. They had the Big 12 Media Days back there in KC, right? And so I'm watching, and they got my guy Fraschilla. He's there talking about these teams and these players and all this stuff. And they put on Bobby Hurley, right? I'm not much of an ASU basketball fan compared to what I am baseball and football. In fact, hardly at all, because coming from the Northeast, it was all about the professional ranks. And then when I moved to Phoenix, they had the Suns, so the NBA was already there. So my college ratio interest to NBA has always been very much slanted towards the NBA, right? Well, he said, it caught my ear what he said. They brought in a bunch of international players, and you know why he said that? He said because the American players were too expensive. Think about that. That's literally what he said. So at the college ranks, you can change your fortunes a lot quicker than you can in the NBA. So you're going to have to lose to get these picks. That's just the way it is, man. There's nothing more you can say about that. So with that in mind, you're going to lose. And the Jazz, if they play their guys and their guys are healthy, seems to me they've got enough talent to lose that draft pick.
Well, yeah, and like you said, we're kind of going off a one-game sample size right now, but the way they came out of the gates last night showed that the young talent, it's there. Like, I just played the highlight of Ace Bailey coming into this segment. Well, he had one dribble, PK. He went three-quarters of the court. Absolutely incredible just with that long stride.
Right.
We're seeing Bryce Sensabaugh be able to hit everything. Keontae George, I've been so hesitant to believe a lot of the hype.
Reluctant?
Reluctant. About his work in the offseason, that a lot of people say he transformed his game and the like. Well, last night it looked like, he looks like the point guard that really could lead this team forward. But we'll see how it all goes. It's going to unfold over the next 81 games now.
Yeah. I just think that there's talent there to lose that draft pick. And Austin Ainge talked about that, and he said they weren't going to tank. So if they're not going to tank, that means you're going to try to win. And Ace Bailey with that big dunk, he does cover a lot of ground in his stride. So what do you think, Jazz fans? You comfortable with losing the pick if they win more? I am. I mean, you got to start winning. You got to show signs. I mean, I would love to get the Bansa here. There's a kid, obviously, who's been around Utah, and then he's not going to be it wouldn't be a big move for him and all that stuff. And can he be a cornerstone? Yeah. But maybe that just doesn't happen. I don't know. We'll have to see how it develops. I mean, it's a long way to go. But, man, they sure look good, and they couldn't have looked better. Now, the Clippers, maybe they stink. Maybe they're an old team who's going to already go through the motions. We shall see about that.
Did you hear the stat from Tim Lacombe last night on the broadcast?
What did he say?
They are the oldest team, speaking of the Los Angeles Clippers, in NBA history, an average age of 33.2 years, outdoing the 2000-2001 Utah Jazz, who previously held that record.
That's a cool stat.
So, they've got a really old team, and they have very little in terms of flexibility with draft picks and the like. So, they're rolling with who they've got, PK, and they're going to have to hope that Kawhi Leonard plays a whole lot better than he did last night.
Yeah. And then it just looked like they looked disinterested, and the Jazz look young and fresh. There's going to be storylines in the NBA. Could this team be a surprise? I'm pumping the brakes on everything as far as that goes, but we shall see. That's the big story of the day. We got Barry Tramel talking about college football at the top of the hour. Stay with us right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's game week for the Cougars, and the KSL Sports Zone is getting you ready for kickoff. With the Holy War behind them, the Cougars get set for a trip to the Midwest for a Saturday afternoon showdown against Iowa State. Listen all week long for the best coverage of Cougar football. Then catch College Football Saturday game day at 10 a.m. with a postgame show immediately following the game on KSLSports.com. Your home for the best coverage of BYU football is live on air, online, and on the KSL Sports app. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
That is Eric Church you hear playing. I think the song is called Springsteen. It feels like a July Saturday night. Not a July Saturday night. It needs to be a July Saturday night. And today the artist is Eric Church as he performs at the Delta Center tonight. It is brought to you by Live Nation. For all your live concert and events in 2025, check out livenation.com. Whoa. I've seen Eric Church in concert. Puts on a fine show. And you know what's funny? We have at the bottom of the hour, next hour at 8:30, we're talking about the big exhibition game between the BYU Cougars and the North Carolina Tar Heels. And did you know, Yak, a resident hardcore Tar Heel basketball fan is Eric Church?
I had heard that he was a big UNC guy, so there you go.
And there was fairly recently in the last few years that he was considering canceling a concert because he had scheduled it on the Final Four weekend.
Yes. Yeah, he said we're going to postpone this if they make the Final Four and the like. So,
and he took some crap.
He took some heat for it, but I can understand at the same time. He's a sports fan. He's entitled.
No.
Why not?
Instead of because, man. What do you mean? Why not? Because people pay money to see this. Obviously,
yeah, he wasn't straight up canceling. He was just going to move it.
Yeah, right. But some people pay money to go see a show. Touché. And they fly into town. Now, I can't remember who told me this, but there was, oh man, I wish I can remember who did it. So I know some people up here in northern Utah, they were going to go see an artist who was not coming here, but was coming to Phoenix. Oh, I know it was. It's a friend of mine. I got the story down now. Yes. And so his sister lives in the Phoenix area, right? And so he buys plane ticket and they cancel the show. Well, they didn't cancel it. They postponed it. But he's flying in for the show. And so he flies in. The idea was he had to work, right? So he flies in like around 4 o'clock. The show's going to be 7 o'clock. And then the next morning he's flying back to go to work, right? I don't remember the artist. Well, he does that, and they postpone the show, move it to another day. And so he said basically he went and had dinner with his sister and then flew back.
Hey, you're building family bonds there, okay? I can respect it. But I get what you're saying.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just not the people who, let's say the show was in Dallas. It's just not the people who could drive, we could just drive over another day. That happened a few years back. Oh, this is a funny story. It was someone associated with BYU, and I don't want to go into too much detail, but bought they bought a slew of tickets, 15, 20 tickets, because there's going to be the family, the extended family, and they were all going to go see the Eagles. And this was a few years back, and Don Henley got sick. He literally got sick. And so they postponed the show. It was going to be early May. They postponed the show till the end of May, right? Well, you wouldn't think that would be a big deal. Well, the funny thing is they postponed the show till Sunday, and this person who is employed by BYU is a fairly visible person. And so the person felt, and I don't even want to give up the gender, that the person could not go because it was on a Sunday, and that person would be noticed and then be called out and possibly get itself into hot water. And so the family went, but the employee did not go, which I think is a little extreme as far as that goes. With that Sunday thing is that's hit and miss as far as what can be done, what can't be done there. But anyway, that's what happened. So they did not go to the show. So, yeah, I think that's kind of weak that you cancel it just because your team is playing. You should have thought of that. You should have had confidence in your team that your team was going to get to the Final Four. And North Carolina coming in, playing. What time is that? Is it 7 o'clock tomorrow?
Yeah, it's a 7 o'clock game, yep.
Yeah. And you got to buy tickets, right? It's not for free.
Yeah, you buy tickets. That obviously is going to be split between the two teams. In terms of broadcast details, it's going to be on ESPN+.
Okay, yeah. Now, it's a preseason exhibition game, so when they went back to Nebraska, they lost, but they sat out DeBonso the last 4 or 5 minutes, didn't they?
Yeah. They had.
And he had 30.
He had 30, and had he been in for the final stanza, they'd probably pull away in that one and win it. The other thing is, like guys like Rob Wright III, we're also on a minutes restriction.
Right. So let's not go too crazy on the result. But North Carolina coming to town. I think it's cool that they're going to do it. All right, we'll get back to college football next. We get Barry Tramel making his weekly visit, talking Big 12 and college football. Stay with us right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Welcome back in. DJ is off today. He is recovering from the soccer game. As you know, he does the soccer. RSL on the radio, and they lost last night in Portland. Their season is over. So he got back late last night. He'll be back tomorrow. Joining us now on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone, is one of our favorites of the week, columnist for the Tulsa World, Barry Tramel. Barry, good morning. How's it going?
Well, it's going all right. Late night, sometimes that happens. What time was the soccer game? They play at night?
Yes, yeah, and he returned to Salt Lake about 2 or 3 in the morning.
Yeah, that would be a killer. Yeah. Man.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny. In a small world department, you know, I grew up in Phoenix, and about 4 or 5 years ago, they made a coaching change during the season, and they promoted an assistant. His name's Pablo Mastrioni. Played with the U.S. team, great soccer player, played a lot with over there with Colorado. So I thought, man, I need to get up to date because we have the rights, and so we talk to the coach once a week. So I call up his name, I'm reading it, and he was born in Argentina but moved to the U.S. at age 4, obviously with his parents. So said he settled in Phoenix and went to high school, and the high school was named Thunderbird. And I'm reading this, and I'm a little older, but I went to high school at Thunderbird. How about that?
Oh, wow.
I know.
Now, that's a cool name for a school.
It's on
Thunderbird High School?
Yes, it's a road. Thunderbird is it's named after the road. The Thunderbird in 19th Avenue over there in North Phoenix. So, and there was a thing, he had a quote, he used a fancy word, and I said, wow, that was a great word that you used. He said, yep, learned it in high school from Mr. Sargent, who was my English teacher.
Wow.
So, I know.
Well, you know, my first SEC media days, I introduced myself to Eli Drinkwitz, the Missouri coach. He was born in Norman, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
He lived here a year or two and then moved off to Arkansas, I think it was. Anyway, I said, hey, we were born in the same hospital because there's only one hospital in Norman. I was born in Norman. He seemed vastly underwhelmed with that information. I don't know. Oh. Yeah, but Thunderbird. You know, Thunderbird is. I petitioned when the Sonics moved to Oklahoma City. I campaigned for them to be named the Thunderbirds.
Oh, you did?
And instead they just went with straight Thunder. Clay Bennett, the owner, later told me he liked Thunderbirds, but the New Mexico G League team was the Thunderbirds. And he said there was some contractual stuff with the NBA that was going to be a headache, and he said it really wasn't worth it. So I thought Thunderbirds. I'm not, you know, I know I'm talking to somebody from Salt Lake City with the Mammoth and the Jazz and all that, but I still like my plurals on nicknames. You know, we don't have one here. We got Thunder, so
yeah,
it just makes for some. When you're writing, it makes for some little bit of problematic situations every once in a while. Not often, but every once in a while.
Yeah, you got your verb tenses going on there. How do you handle it?
Yeah. It's a problem, but first world problems, I'd say. How about those Jazz?
I know. Wow. How about
Way to go, Utah.
We shall see. It's funny, you know. I was a beat writer I worked for the Salt Lake Tribune for 14 years before I went electronic completely, which was one of the best moves I ever made, certainly in terms of the salary. But anyway, I covered Utah basketball in the 90s when Majerus had those great. Yeah, so I went to the
Andre Miller and those guys. Yeah,
Andre Miller, Keith Van Horn, on and on. Yeah, and it's weird now, Barry, because I was the beat writer. The new coach for the University of Utah basketball is Alex Jensen, and he played on their Final Four team. Local kid, very good player, very cerebral. And he was the one guy that Majerus would always compliment, so the players kind of called him the coach's pet. But I covered his first game as a beat writer, and I covered his last game as a beat writer. And same thing with Austin Ainge, who is now the GM for the Jazz. So that means two things. The kids I covered have grown up, and I have gotten older, and that's the way it is there. But
well, have they started calling you? Have people started referring to you as a legend?
I hope not.
Well, to your face. They'll do it to your face. That's when you'll know you've really gotten old, when they start calling you a legend. Because people use that as a euphemism for, you're really old.
Yes.
It's about time for you to move on down the road. I get that a lot.
I'm still having the time of my life, man. I enjoy this business big time. I still have the same level of excitement and enthusiasm as I had. We DJ and I are in we're about 23 and a half years of doing this morning show. So,
well, that's fantastic.
Yeah, we've been doing
That's fantastic.
And I look forward to more to come, especially now that I got rejuvenated. It's funny because I got rejuvenated when the Utes went to the Pac-12 in time for the 2011 season. You know, I grew up in a Pac-10 city, worked newspapers there. Then I got a job over in Los Angeles, a suburban newspaper, for about 10 years there before I came to Salt Lake. And so I was eyeball deep in the Pac-10. And then when the Utes got in the Pac-12, it's like I got rejuvenated. And I remember talking to Chris Hill, the longtime athletic director, and he felt like it was buying a sports car when you're 55 years old, you know, your midlife crisis, and you got that thing going. And it just rejuvenated him into the job. And now I feel, and I was sad when the Pac-12 went away because it's literally the only conference that I followed with such passion in college football. But I got to say, man, into the second year, I have converted quite quickly to the Big 12, and I am fired up every Saturday morning now once we get into the heart of conference season and get done with the non-conference and you have some cupcake games there or whatever. And to see this league each Saturday is just highly entertaining, and I need to look back beyond last Saturday. Houston kicks a game winner at the buzzer to beat Arizona, and as an ASU guy, that's always fun. Then you had the Devils coming out of nowhere beating Texas Tech, and then you had the Utah BYU game, which obviously went right down to the end. This conference, I mean, it may not be the SEC or Big Ten, but I don't care because I think it's been wildly entertaining.
It is a lot of fun. Now, Oklahoma State games completely excluded from that, but but it's been fun. I feel rejuvenated. I've had to basically learn two new conferences,
right?
Because Oklahoma goes into the SEC, so that's all brand new, going to new places. But dang, as we've talked, the Big 12 is really a new league. It's not. It has a little connection with the previous Big 12 and virtually no connection with the original Big 12. I mean, we got 1, 2, 3, 5 of the original Big 12 is left. So it's been a big adjustment too, and adrenaline. I'm with you on the same thing. Going to Cincinnati, going to BYU, going to these places has been really fun and interesting, and I'm hopeful the Big 12 can come out well at the end. I'm not optimistic, though. I'm not optimistic. I thought I'd do something with you today.
Go ahead.
How about we do one of those blind resumes? I want to give you 2 schools.
Okay.
Okay? And I'm going to tell you the resumes, and you tell me where they ought to be ranked or in comparison with each other. Both of these teams are 7-0. Both of these teams won at Colorado. Team A, 27-20. Team B, 24-21. Team A has no victories over anyone receiving votes in either poll. Team B has 1 victory over a team receiving votes in the polls, and that team is not in the top 25. Each team has a 21-point victory over an American Conference opponent. The best win of Team A is Duke. The best win of Team B is Utah. And so you tell me, how should those teams be ranked in comparison to each other in the polls?
Well, if you go in the polls, how they should be ranked, I would think that based on resume and exclusive resume for this season, not rep, not conference, not whatever, that BYU should be ranked ahead of Georgia Tech.
Well, I agree with you. Team A, of course, is Georgia Tech. Team B, BYU. I don't care where you rank them. Rank them third, rank them 69th. I don't care. But you got to rank them together or almost together.
Yeah.
And yet, in the AP, they're 7-11. In the coaches, they're 7-10. The Athletic has them 9-11, and ESPN has them 7-10. I think we've done this before, but I think we got to talk about not whether there's bias against BYU, but where does the bias come from? What's the root of that bias? I don't get it. Georgia Tech even has a little bit of a squishy victory, that overtime win at against Wake Forest. I forgot what the play was, but the big, the official screw up at the end. I think it was an offside on Georgia Tech that they didn't call in the 2-point play or something. I can't remember. Anyway, there's something going on, and it matters because we saw it last year. Because at the end of the season, BYU's an afterthought and was clearly the most underrated team by the committee. So I don't know what's going on there. I just thought when I saw the polls, I thought I ought to check out, just compare Georgia Tech and BYU, because I know neither one has played a showdown game other than the Holy War. Maybe there's something there I've forgotten. Nope, not at all. Not at all. If anything, BYU has the better win, Utah over Duke. So,
no question. Yeah.
I don't get it. I just don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah, I think I'll throw this out at you. Now, they both have the win over Colorado, right? But the Georgia Tech win, and Dion is an eyeball grabber, right? And it was early in the season. Now, the Buffs are 3-4. But they play the Utes Saturday, and Kyle Whittingham, and I've seen Colorado play several times because it's my job, and I try to watch as much Big 12 football as possible. And he said, and I've known this, I didn't know the literal numbers, but he said the losses have come against teams that are combined 25-3. So the point being, Colorado is a good football program, right? They're 3-4, but things haven't gone their way. That game that they played Georgia Tech, I remember the sun being out, which meant back east and in your time zone and so forth, it's not outrageously late, and so they can watch that game. When BYU plays Colorado, it starts Mountain Time after 8 o'clock, which then obviously where the bulk of the population in this country is after 10 o'clock, and it pretty much goes right down to the end. Colorado's last possession ended in an interception late in the game, obviously, and I wonder people don't really pay attention to that. But the BYU thing, there's no question last year BYU deserved consideration. They didn't even get consideration for an at-large berth, which I think was a joke. They have 2 losses. One was to Kansas. Kansas was hot at the time. They end up losing their last game, so they didn't get in a bowl game. And then they go into Tempe, and they lose, I think, by 4 points, something like that, to a team that won the conference and took Texas in overtime, blah, blah, blah. So this year, and you look at Indiana. Now, Indiana gets the big win against Oregon, so you got me there. But they were always ahead of BYU, and they hadn't played or beat a ranked team until Oregon. They got the Oregon win in Eugene, so you got to give it to them, right? And now they're ranked second. And in Indiana's last 20 games, they're 18-2 under Signetti, which is awesome, particularly for a traditional basketball school. Well, Kalani Sitake, you know what he is in his last 20 games? He's 18-2 himself. And And it acts like, well, Cignetti is just all, and he should be recognized as all that. Well, the Cougars are sitting there at 18-2 in their last 20 games, which I think is absolutely awesome.
Yeah. I came up with 3 potential biases against BYU. One we talked about is just the religious prejudice, the anti-Mormon. I actually don't want to think that's it, but the longer this goes, the more we have to talk about it. Number 2 is the Big 12, but there's clearly Big 12 is not as respected as it wants to be. But neither is Georgia Tech's from the ACC. It's not an SEC Big Ten deal. It's ACC, and last year the SMU BYU thing is the one that drove me nuts. But then the number 3 thing is what you're talking about is the Rocky Mountain time zone. I think that is a problem. I don't know what to do about it. The plumber in Toledo or the roofer in Mobile. I don't expect them to stay up and keep up. It's not their job. But people who are voting on the committee or voting in the polls, that's not an excuse at all, for crying out loud. So we gotta be better than this, I think.
100%. There's no doubt about it. I still think Texas Tech is going to make it because their schedule is really soft. I know they lost last week. Are you looking at Cincinnati, BYU as the second team, or even go beyond that?
Yeah, we'll see. Arizona State, if they could finish strong, people would give them all kinds of grace. But they probably have to win but they probably now have to win the conference. It's pretty clear they're not going to put you in at 10-2. The committee has spoken. So I think maybe the best thing would be is if BYU would win out and then get beat in the conference title game. That would get us 2 in the Big 12, I think. If Tech won out and lost the title game, Tech would be squishy. They might make it. I don't know that anybody else. I don't see another way of getting 2 in. I doubt 11-2 or 10-2 Cincinnati gets in. So we'll just have to see how it plays out. The Big Ten's helping because everybody's falling off. They've really only got about, I think, 3 teams really are going to make it: Indiana, Oregon, and Ohio State. And the SEC is going to grab up a bunch of them because they're going to end up with a bunch of 10-2s and some 9-3s that are going to be, beating the drum. So there won't be a lot of space. So I think that's the 2 ways. If BYU or Tech can win out and then lose in Arlington. Otherwise, I think the Big 12 may just get 1 again.
Yeah, that would be unfortunate, but I can't say that I disagree. So I guess we'll just have to see how it plays out. We sure appreciate your time. We'll talk to you next week, okay?
All right. See you guys later.
Okay, that is Barry Tramel. He's a columnist at the Tulsa World. You can read his stuff. And looking forward, as we are every freaking Saturday in the Big 12. It is awesome. Coming up next, we got BYU basketball, man. The highly ranked Cougars, they're going to entertain the North Carolina Tar Heels this tomorrow, actually, in an exhibition game at the Delta Center. Stay with us. We'll get to that next right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's game week for the Utes, and the KSL Sports Zone is getting you ready for kickoff. The rivalry game may be over, but Big 12 play continues on for Kyle Whittingham and the Utes as they welcome in Coach Prime and Colorado to Rice-Eccles Stadium. Listen all week long for the best coverage of Utah football and your chance to win tickets to the game. Then catch college football Saturday game day at 10 a.m. with the postgame show immediately following the game on KSLSports.com.
Let's go then. Let's go, baby.
Your home for the best coverage of Utah football is live on air, online, and on the KSL Sports app. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome back in. Thanks for joining us on this Wednesday. Oh, it's Thursday morning. Excuse me. All right, joining us now, we've got a little college basketball to talk about. Yeah, it comes upon us real quick. Jones Angell, he's North Carolina play-by-play broadcaster. Good morning, Jones. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. Yeah, it's easy to get these days confused this time of year. You got football, you got basketball going on. It all kind of melts together. But doing great. Looking forward to heading out your way later today. In fact, the Tar Heels going to be flying out to Salt Lake this afternoon. Of course, play BYU in that exhibition coming up tomorrow night at 9 o'clock. And what a great opportunity for both these teams in a no-stakes game where it doesn't matter if you win or lose, but you're going to be able to get, I think, a lot of valuable information about your team against a quality opponent. So looking forward to getting out there and looking forward to seeing some basketball tomorrow night.
Yeah, and North Carolina, obviously that is a brand name in terms of college basketball. Your football team has created a bunch of news this year, and we'll see how that goes. But right now, it's about basketball. And the Cougars are sort of a Johnny-come-lately on this national scene. Go to the Sweet 16 last season, and that was the first time since Jimmer Fredette was a senior. They've been in the Sweet 16 three times since 1981, and except for last year, the other two times when they had the Player of the Year, a guy named Danny Angell was there, and then Jimmer Fredette. And last year, Kevin Young's first season, he took our community by storm, and then he goes out and gets a roster that isn't traditional in BYU basketball history, and led by A.J. DeMonta, who's expected to be the number 1 or number 2 pick. We'll see how that plays out when we get to the spring and summer there. But I look at the Tar Heels, definitely a big name. They didn't have the Tar Heel-like season last year. And I don't know if you heard that just in the last couple of days, you've had some big-name college basketball coaches come out and basically rip the sport. Sampson down at Houston, because they had Big 12 Media Days in Kansas City here yesterday, and he was just saying, what are we doing, man? This is an educational institution, but it's not now. You had Tom Izzo talking about guys playing in G League now being eligible to play college ball, and the roster's changing over. Now, with you look at North Carolina, I guess you can say they're led by Seth Trimble, but they had 5 players who stayed. So, and that's news these days. It used to not be news, but in terms of the roster, I assume those 5 players combined with some transfers and some incoming freshmen, 6 transfers, I think, that's going to be the bulk of the roster and what we should expect to see, those types of guys out on the court.
Actually, not really. Yeah, most handful of those returners were walk-ons. I mean, Seth Trimble is really the only returning player that Carolina has that has played significant minutes for the Tar Heels in the past. James Brown's another scholarship player who's a true freshman a year ago. Saw some time, but not really a key player for the Tar Heels. Zayden High has returned. He played 2 years ago, was not on the team a year ago, but back this season, and is expected to have a larger role than he did 2 years ago. But for the most part, this is a brand new team. You know, Carolina has 11 new players. They have 3 really talented freshmen, Caleb Wilson leading that charge, top 5 recruit for the Tar Heels this past year. And then you've got transfers from all over the place. You know, Henry Basar comes from Arizona. He'll be starting for the Tar Heels. Jaron Stevenson comes from Alabama. Jaden Young came to Carolina from Virginia Tech. Jonathan Powell from West Virginia. Kyan Evans from Colorado State. So you've got players from multiple different places that are going to play large roles for the Tar Heels this season, plus those freshmen, Caleb Wilson, Derek Dixon, and Isaiah Dennis. But really, Seth Trimble, the only returner for Carolina that has had significant time. And, you know, I do think it speaks to the way that college athletics in total and college basketball in particular is structured right now. I mean, you mentioned BYU, and certainly, you know, the Cougars have some returning guys, Richie Saunders and Keita down low and others, but they've got a bunch of new players too, whether freshmen or transfers, and that's just in the current landscape. That's how you have to do it. You don't. It's very hard to build a program right now. You build a team for one season, and then you do it again the next season. And that's how rosters have to be managed with the current set of rules within college athletics. You mentioned Tar Heel football, and you've seen that on that side as well. I mean, the Tar Heels have 70 new players, 70 on the football team this year, whether it's a freshman or a transfer. And so it is a time of volatility for sure. It is a heavy time of roster turnover for sure. And I think you see that with these two teams competing on Friday night. Both of them have some pieces, but really brand new teams from what you had a year ago.
So you speak of a kid like Vasar, and he did play at Arizona. Modest stats, a pretty good team. He shot 59% from the floor. Remember him well. And then you talk about a kid like Young, who played at Virginia Tech, and he had modest stats. But, those are just on paper here. In a new role, what does it mean? Is Hubert Davis, just looking at those two as an example that I bring up, they've got experience. They have played at a higher level at other institutions. Are they expecting those types of kids to be marginally better, significantly better? What do they need to be to get Carolina where they need to go?
Well, I think just using those two as an example, Henry Vasar is going to play a much larger role for the Tar Heels than Jaden Young likely will this season. At least that's where it's shaping up at this moment. And, of course, they haven't played a regular season game yet, so a lot can change. But Carolina is going to rely on some transfers and some improvement from those transfers this season. And I do think, and Carolina has some international prospects as well. Luka Bogovac has played professionally in Montenegro for the last 2 years. He's going to play and will likely start for the Tar Heels. And so it is a large collection of new guys from different areas, whether it's freshman transfers or internationally, that are going to make up this team for Carolina. And, of course, you expect to have some improvement from those guys as they continue to mature both physically and within the game and get used to playing with one another. And I do think that will be critical, and I think is a big reason why you play games like you're playing tomorrow night, is you get the opportunity to play together against somebody else who has talent so that you get to figure out, hey, you know what, I thought this was going to be really good. Maybe it's not quite as good as we thought it was right now. Let's keep working on that. Or, hey, I wasn't expecting this part of the game to be, or this individual player, but he really stepped up in this opportunity. And I think you can even add an extra level for the Tar Heels in the sense that they are making the road trip, and they'll be playing in front. I know it's not on campus for BYU, but you're playing in front of what will likely be a road crowd. You have to go through the whole travel situation, flying 4 hours to get there, and just all the different things that go with that. And so I think they get some valuable experience in that regard as well. So it should be a really positive experience, I think, for both these teams, and one that hopefully helps them down the line.
Jones Angell, North Carolina play-by-play broadcaster joining us. Yeah, that led right into my next thought that I was going to have, Jones, is that why – I don't want to say why even bother to do it, but why do it? Because this is a huge road trip, right, from North Carolina all the way out to Salt Lake. I happen to think it's really cool that Hubert Davis and his program would want to do it. If for nothing else, then I'm guessing a bunch of kids, not Vasar, who we just talked about, but a lot of the kids on the East Coast have never been out our way and to see the mountains and all. So just from an educational purpose, it should be an advantage. But it seems like there might have been an easier alternative there. But I think it's cool that they're doing it.
Well, and, Carolina did a game like this last year where they played, it was for charity, a St. Jude's Classic at Memphis, and ended up winning that exhibition. Memphis ended up having a terrific year. And so, I think Carolina really thought that was a positive experience for them. And so when this opportunity was presented to them to go out and play, I think it's one that they thought would be beneficial. And so for them, it's time to get going. They play BYU on Friday. They're hosting hosting Winston-Salem State, which is an HBCU here in North Carolina, in another exhibition on Wednesday. And then it's regular season time. I mean, their first game is against Central Arkansas on Monday, November 3rd. But then that Friday, they're hosting Kansas in the Smith Center. And so to be able to play another quality team like BYU, I do think helps you when you do get into the regular year, especially with the schedule that Carolina plays, which has Kansas and Kentucky and Michigan State and Ohio State. And that's before you get into conference play, where you're going to be playing Duke and Louisville and all the teams that you traditionally battle with in the ACC. And so, again, just a low-stakes, high ceiling game, I think, for both these teams. There's not much downside to playing this game because of the experience that it gives you.
Carolina has the highest of standards, and as they should, obviously. They're a premier basketball program historically and have been for so many years, year after year. But I think last year they were in the ACC. I think they might have had a losing record, if I remember. And, not a Carolina-like year. Does that put pressure on this year's team, on the coaching staff?
Well, they didn't have a losing record overall, nor in conference play last year, but they didn't have the type of year that they wanted for sure. The Tar Heels went into the NCAA tournament, had to play in that first four. They were 11 seed, the lowest seed they've ever had in the NCAA tournament. So certainly not a Carolina-like season, but does it put pressure? Absolutely. But it's not just last season for Carolina. Since COVID, I don't think Carolina's had been as consistent as the Tar Heels normally are. And, of course, they've gone through a major coaching change, with Roy Williams retiring and Hubert Davis taking over, and then Coach Davis taking over right when the whole landscape of college athletics changes with NIL and the transfer portal. It has been an adjustment, I think, for every program across the country. And so the Tar Heels have certainly not been bad in this stretch. I mean, they played for the national title in 2022. They were a number one seed in 2024. So they have certainly still reached a level of success. But I don't think the Tar Heels have been as consistently successul as they have been for decades, where you are seeing them compete for number one seeds almost every year and ACC championships almost every year. They have been more middling than that here recently. And so, yes, I absolutely think there's some pressure on the Tar Heels this year to put together a good season. And the good news for them is I do think they have a roster to do it. I think they've got a good team, but they've got to go out there and do it. And that starts coming up on Friday night.
Yeah, as far as that goes. And I love that they just play the big-time schedule. And that's what I love about college basketball is you can have these big games. It seems like in non-conference in football, you don't get as many. I'm talking about the sport, not any individual team. But in college hoop that we do have in the non-conference, we have a lot of what we consider marquee matchups. How do you think that the Tar Heels will approach this game? Because you talk about how it's low stakes. And the reason why I bring that up is the Cougars went back to Nebraska last Saturday, and I think they lost by a point or so. And DeBonsa is the big name, the freshman coming in with all the hype. He scores 30, but he didn't play at the end of the game, right? Because ultimately it doesn't matter. But I'm wondering how you think the Tar Heels will approach this game in terms of it matters, but it doesn't matter. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And Hubert Davis was asked that question yesterday at his press conference. And, he kind of rode that line of, well, you're out there playing, so you're trying to win, of course, because you're playing the game. But at the same time, it's an opportunity to give you a chance to try some things. And whether that's different lineup combinations or different play calls or different how you may approach a certain situation. And he said, there's some things as far as game situations. He said that, and I'm speaking as him right now, where he said, hey, we hadn't even practiced some things yet. Right. And so, there might be a situation that comes up in a game that by the time you're into, December or something that you've worked on a lot in practice and that you're prepared for. But here in October, you haven't repped it yet. And so you may not handle it just how you would handle it in a regular season game coming up in a couple of months. And so I do think you ride that balance of you're you're trying to win because you're playing the game. But if you get some other valuable points out of it, then that can be more long-term value than winning the game. And I'll go back to what Carolina did last season against Memphis as an example. Carolina won that game against Memphis. Well, Memphis ended up having a better year than the Tar Heels a season ago. And Carolina just gets into the NCAA tournament. The Tigers were safely in as I think maybe a 6 seed or somewhere in that range, a 5 seed a year ago. And so, it isn't in any way an indicator of how the season's going to play out. And you used a great example of that Nebraska game. I think if BYU maybe handles some situations in the second half differently, and Robert Wright plays a lot more, and DeMonsa's out there when it matters, and maybe that ends up as a different result. But Kevin Young knew that this result means absolutely nothing, and so it's much more valuable if you choose to approach it that way. It's much more valuable to give some guys maybe who are not going to be your starters, give them some pressure opportunities. How do they handle it? So you maybe learn something about them, or if they're forced into action in a key moment in a conference game in January, that they've been in a similar situation. So my guess is that both these teams they want to win, but they also want to get better as a team, and getting better as a team at this point is just as important as the outcome in a game that ultimately isn't on your win-loss record.
Yeah, well said. Jones, thanks for your time. We appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me on. Looking forward to coming out there, and looking forward to some great action tomorrow night.
All right, thank you. That's Jones Angell. He is the North Carolina play-by-play broadcaster as the Tar Heels coming out to play BYU in an exhibition game tomorrow night, 7 o'clock at the Delta Center. College basketball right around the corner. BYU opens up November 3rd in Las Vegas at I believe it's the T-Mobile Center, playing Villanova, and they got a lot of big games. In less than a month, they will be in Boston to play UConn at the Boston Garden. That's pretty cool too. And eagerly anticipating the start of college basketball. And we'll tell you where the Aggies are picked in the Mountain West. We got that next. Stay with us. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's game week for the Cougars, and the KSL Sports Zone is getting you ready for kickoff. With the Holy War behind them, the Cougars get set for a trip to the Midwest for a Saturday afternoon showdown against Iowa State. Listen all week long for the best coverage of Cougar football. Then catch College Football Saturday game day at 10 a.m. with a postgame show immediately following the game on KSLSports.com. Your home for the best coverage of BYU football is live on air, online, and on the KSL Sports app. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
The John Watson Northern High School Players of the Week Award honors the best high school football player in northern Utah each week during the prep football season. Our winners this week: Jackson Ita-Ihau of Davis High School and Manasseh Tua-Tegaloa of Fremont High School. Ita-Ihau ran 14 times for 121 yards and 2 touchdowns, while adding 11 receptions for 109 yards and another TD in the Darts 38-23 win over Weber High School, while Tua Tagovailoa passed for 267 yards and 5 touchdowns in the Silver Wolves 41-21 win over Roy High School. Don't miss the KSL Sports Game Night Live Game of the Week this week as the Viewmont Vikings take on the Westfield Longhorns. Catch the action tomorrow night at KSLSports.com, the KSL Sports app, or here on the KSL Sports Zone. See why new and used car buyers give John Watson Chevrolet more 5-star reviews than any other Chevy dealer in Utah. John Watson Chevrolet, your 5-star Chevy dealer. Got to tell you, I teased it. The Aggies basketball, college basketball. Man, the Jazz with a big win last night. And we've got the Aggies. They are picked second in the Mountain West behind San Diego State. And Mason Falsef, the star for the Aggies, he earned a spot on the preseason All-Mountain West team, as college basketball is less than 2 weeks away from getting started. It starts early and it runs later. College basketball is about to be upon us. The NBA upon us for sure, with the Jazz with the big win last night. We still got college football, and the Cougars got a huge game Saturday in Ames, Iowa. We have got the play-by-play broadcaster talking about that next, so stay with us right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Thanks for joining us on this Thursday morning. DJ's off. I'm PK. Joining us now is John Walters, Iowa State play-by-play broadcaster. John, good morning.
Good morning.
So we look at the Cyclones now. My preseason picks to get to the conference final was Iowa State and Texas Tech. I think Texas Tech still has the inside track. I know they lost last week, but I think their schedule gets really soft down the stretch here. Iowa State, big start, 5-0, 2 losses and then a bye, but both losses were one-score games. Now, before I ask you anything about Iowa State, I did say my sleeper team was Cincinnati. You saw them. Obviously, they're tied with BYU, first place, 4-0, 6-1 overall. How legitimate are they in your assessment?
I think they're good. They really punched Iowa State in the mouth in the first half of that game at Cincinnati and ran the ball right down their throat. And they do have, I think, it's a very talented quarterback in Sorsby. He's a great run-pass threat. I feel like they have some weapons in that passing game and in the run game that they're very good. I don't know if they're quite good enough to get to the championship game. I'd be surprised if they do. Their schedule gets much tougher. You just talked about how Texas Tech softens. I think Cincinnati's schedule gets really tough down the stretch. So I think I'd be surprised if they got to the championship game. Not shocked, but certainly surprised. And they're having a great season regardless, and I'm happy for Coach Satterfield to see him kind of fend off some of the criticism that he took coming into the season and show that he is a good football coach and they do have a good program.
Okay, just analyze then who do you think might get in. I mean, obviously BYU has an opportunity. There's some one-loss teams there. Texas Tech one-loss team, but as I said, I still think they're going to get in. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a great question, and there's so many variables out there still. I really feel like there's still 5 or 6 teams that can get in there. It's too unpredictable in the Big 12. I think just when you write somebody off, all of a sudden they kind of turn it back around. We saw Kansas State kind of do that within this year. We saw Kansas do that within last season, where you write somebody off, you think they're done, and all of a sudden they find life. And they have good players and good coaches. And so, even Iowa State, I think, is still in the race, especially if they can win these next 2 at home against BYU and Arizona State. Obviously, they're going to have to win out to be in the race to get there. But I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be shocked if a 2-loss team did get to the conference championship game again this year. I don't think there'll be 2 2-loss teams like there were a year ago. I think there'll be a 1-loss team, whether that's BYU or Texas Tech. I would say one of those 2 probably will be in the championship game. And then beyond that, it's just who can win out the tiebreakers and hang in there the longest because, with 5 games still to go, there's a long way to go in this race.
Yeah, it's kind of fun to follow it for sure. Now, you speak of that loss to Cincinnati in which they ran the ball. They ran the ball for 260 yards. And average 7.6 yards per attempt. Obviously, those are massive numbers. BYU likes to run the ball. They got a freshman quarterback. They don't ask him to do a whole lot, although he is a significant factor in the run game. And then certainly they've got L.J. Martin. How do you think that's going to stack up as far as Iowa State trying to defend and fend off BYU's running game?
I think it's the story of the game, really. Can Iowa State slow down that BYU rush attack enough to make Bear Bachmeier play quarterback, and not play fullback? And then, not that he can't make throws. He's proven he can. He's made some great throws. But I'd rather put my put my faith in, hey, make him beat us throwing the football, then allow him and that offense to rush. They've been rushing for over 230 yards a game. They're really hard to stop, especially right up the middle with that run game between him and Martin. It's and a really good offensive line. It's tough. Now, I would say for Iowa State, their strength defensively, particularly if Dominique Orange is healthy, is up the middle. With Dominique Orange, Cooper Evil at middle linebacker, and Marcus Neal is a really good safety, they have to come up and rush defense, and they have to slow down the run game first. Obviously, BYU can make you pay with some plays on the outside with Roberts. And Kingston, I think, is a really diverse player that creates a lot of mismatch problems. But I think it has to start for Iowa State with slowing down that run game. And teams that haven't been able to do that haven't had success. And I think, you really don't have a chance to win if you can't slow down their run game at least a little bit. I'm not saying you're going to shut it down completely and hold them to 90 yards, but if you can hold them to 150 yards instead of 230 and force Bachmeier to have to make some big throws in pressure situations in front of a really tough environment as a freshman quarterback. And what he's doing is unbelievable to me as a true freshman to be 7-0. It's incredible, and I love watching him play. He's a great player, but this will be the toughest environment he's played in, I think. And so you've got to go in and create some situations that make him uncomfortable.
Yeah, for sure. John Walters, play-by-play broadcaster for Iowa State, joining us. Now, we've had the pleasure of, and I use the word pleasure on purpose, of watching Rocco Beck the last 3 years. BYU joined the conference first, and then Utah came in last year. So now, obviously, they're both in it, and all of our attention from a media standpoint is not solely, but largely on the Big 12 because both of our teams are in this conference. And Beck, man, he just seems to me as a gamer kind of kid, just a tough kid. They always show his father in the stands when you're watching the games, and it looked like his dad is not somebody you would want to mess with even at his age right now. And I think it's been transferred over to his son because I just think his toughness is probably as good as anybody that I've seen, and he probably needs it. He got his bell rung against the Sun Devils in the Big 12 title game last year, and I've seen him take some big hits this year. In the last game, man, I think he was trying to scramble, and he ran, and the defender was right on him, took a massive hit, went out, but he comes back. It's really hard to just keep this kid down, isn't it?
It is. That's a great observation on your part because he is so tough, and he's not the biggest guy. He's got basically the same build as Brock Purdy. He's 6'1", about 215, and a really level-headed guy, a great leader. But you're right, a tough guy who's going to absorb hits, is going to be a part of the run game. He leads Iowa State in rushing touchdowns. He's just a competitor. He's the ultimate competitor, and he's got that it factor that you just love. Iowa State's had 7 come-from-behind victories in his time as a starter where they trailed or were tied in the fourth quarter and needed to drive late in the game to win, and he did it. And so even though Iowa State's lost these last couple close games, and he did get dinged up in both of them, I think this bye week for him was really pivotal, not only physically, but I think mentally, just to get in a place where it's, hey, let your hair down and just go play football. Go play the game you love, because I think he does put a lot on his shoulders and takes a lot of responsibility. There was the press conference after the game at Colorado where he was really down about himself and just kind of putting it on his shoulders. And, he doesn't need to do that, but he cares that much, and that's why you love him. And so I think he needs to just get to a point mentally where it's like, hey, let's just go play. And he's at his best when he does that. When you see Iowa State get in their 2-minute offense, that's when he's making plays and making one throw after another down the field and not putting too much on his shoulders. Just go let it loose. And I think that's exactly what he needs to do this weekend.
Yeah, I think we saw that, the things you're talking about. I view him as a gamer, and we saw that on display last year in Salt Lake when he had the nice rally against the Utes and Rice Eccles. His toughness is something that's obvious. It just jumps through the television. 11 sacks this year. Is that problematic for Iowa State?
Yeah, he's taken a little bit more pressure than you'd like. He is good at keeping plays alive with his feet and looking down the field, and sometimes he can, if you bring a pass rush on him, yes, sometimes you get home and it works, but he also makes some plays against blitzes too that turned out to be big plays for Iowa State. He throws the best deep ball, I think, of any quarterback in the Big 12. He really drops it on a dime deep and puts it where it needs to be. And so this is a game when BYU plays a lot of man. Can Iowa State make some plays down the field with Rocco back? Can they give him enough protection to allow him to make those throws, whether it's off play action or just a conventional passing play? But I think in order to do that, the big thing for Iowa State is not being third and long. Get in 3rd and 1, or be making those throws on first down when play action's more effective. And so we'll see if Iowa State tries to take some shots down the field with Rocco. I think it's been a really big part of their offense this year. They probably got away from that a little bit at Colorado, but I think they need to have some balls down the field to have some success against this really good BYU defense.
They got a decent 1-2 punch in the run game, and as I watched the game against Colorado, obviously Sama really jumped out at us. I think he had almost close to 200 yards, if I remember. It looked like he really had it going on. Has he taken over as the lead back? Is this something like 100 yards that we can continue to see, maybe consistently?
Well, I think it's possible. I don't think he's taken over because Carson Hansen was injured and didn't play against Colorado. But Carson Hansen's a really good running back, too. They kind of have that 1-2 punch, and they like to play them both. And Carson's back fully healthy this week and will be ready to go against BYU, and they're going to need them both. But Sama's one of those one-cut guys, but also has some strength and physicality to him, and he's really run the ball well. I didn't realize – I looked at Iowa State's game notes this week, and I had no idea that in his career he is Iowa State's leader in yards per carry over Troy Davis and Breece Hall. And, he's just a young guy still. His breakout game that he had was at BYU a couple of years ago when he rushed for over 100 yards. And he's had 4 100-yard rushing games in his career. They've all been on the road, so maybe he's due to have one at home. But I think it'll be more of a by-committee thing with him and Hansen because they really do provide a good 1-2 punch for Iowa State at that running back position. But being able to run the football against BYU is critical, and it's really hard to do. Their front seven is really good. Those linebackers are big and strong, and they're going to come up and run support and make it hard to run the football. So that's another chess match, another game within the game to keep an eye on this week.
John Walters, play-by-play broadcaster for the Cyclones, joining us on the KSL Sports Zone. You talk about committee, and there's no doubt they got that 2 running back tandem there. Also, too, you look at the stats, a couple of pretty good tight ends. They like to spread the ball around. They may not have one big-time statistical receiver, but they've got a number of guys who can hurt you.
I think that's a great point on your part, and it is the difference between this year's Iowa State team and last year's Iowa State team. Last year you had Jaden Higgins and Jalen Knoll, who both went on to the Houston Texans, the NFL, and are both off to good starts in their professional careers. But you knew those were going to be the 2 guys that were going to get the ball the majority of the time. This year with Iowa State, they're really spreading it out, much like BYU is. There's a lot of different guys involved. But the 2 running backs, they play the 2 running backs together some. They'll play 12 personnel and have the 2 tight ends, Gabe Burkle and Benjamin Bramer, on the field the bulk of the time. But a lot of times they'll have 3 tight ends or even 4 tight ends on the field. So the offensive coordinator for Iowa State is a young guy. He's very creative. He likes to put a lot of different formations out there and kind of challenge defenses to be ready for everything in Taylor Mauser. And I wouldn't be surprised to see those tight ends play a big role in this game. Burkle and Bramer are as good a 1-2 punch at tight end as probably anybody has in the Big 12 Conference.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that. In full transparency, we here, at least myself and my partner, he's off today, but anyway, we've been able to get the exposure each week to the Big 12 and talk to our coaches here, what they think about the teams that they now have to play, because we got both BYU and Utah in the league now, and that's awesome for us from a media perspective. And one of the things that I've learned in the last couple years is that there's an enormous amount of respect for the coach, Matt Campbell, at Iowa State, and you've been around him. And it seems like he's got a program that this is something that they're going to be competitive just about every year, if not, in fact, every single season to varying degrees. And I think that as I've learned about him, I've become more and more impressed. What makes him be who he is as far as a quality coach?
Wow. Loaded question and a good one. And he is the best coach that Iowa State's ever had. And we've had some good ones. We've had Earl Bruce and Johnny Majors and Dan McCarney. But at Iowa State, Matt Campbell has done more than any of those coaches. And I think it's you look at the results, and they're good. They're very good. But for me, it's more just he truly is invested in the players and their lives and what kind of human beings they're going to be. A lot like Kalani Sitake. I would say there's a lot of similarities. And he paid Coach Sitake the ultimate compliment, I think, from any coach this week when he said, if one of my sons wants to play college football, I'd love to have him go play for Kalani Sitake. I mean, you can't get higher praise from one coach to another than that. And so I think it's because he feels like he does things in a way that are truly valuing the experience the kid has during his 4 or 5 years of college, not just becoming a better football player, but becoming a better man. And so it sounds corny, but it's so true. It's such a big part of who he is and what he is. And as a result, you see Iowa State become a developmental program. They don't go out and get all the 4- and 5-star shiny objects. They don't go into the portal as much as other teams do, although I'm not saying they don't. They'll go get 4 or 5 guys out of the portal every year, but they're not going to completely turn over the roster every year. And so it's a developmental program where guys are coming along, and then all of a sudden you see them out there on the field, and Matt likes to play a lot of guys, and that depth really pays off, especially look at last year when Iowa State had probably 11 linebacker injuries, and still were able to win 11 games and a school record and win the Pop-Tarts Bowl over Miami and play in the Big 12 championship game. So he has a belief that those guys need to come along and develop. And when somebody goes down with an injury, which Iowa State has had again this year, particularly at the cornerback position, the kicker position, you've got a guy that's ready to step in and do that job. So I think it's a program that has a lot of belief from within those walls that they're going to be good. And, man, that was a huge hurdle for Iowa State to get over because there were a lot of years when there were 4 or 5 games on the schedule, or at least 2 or 3, that you would say, okay, let's just survive that one. And now with Matt Campbell, you go into every game, no matter where it is and who you're playing, feeling like you have a chance to win if you execute and play well. It doesn't mean you're going to win every week, but you at least feel like you have a chance. And that was a huge hurdle to get over, not only for Iowa State's program, for their fans, just to have that belief that they could win every week.
How fun was that trip over to Ireland?
It was awesome. It was a really cool experience, and obviously winning the football game made it way better. But, no, what a great experience for those guys. Because college athletes, volleyball players, basketball players, they get to go on foreign trips and see other places all the time. But for football, that's really rare. That almost never happens. And so for the football team to get over there, even though they didn't do a lot of sightseeing, they went over and had a unique experience as college students. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, it's looked like it on television. I would have loved to have been there maybe one of these times, get an opportunity. Well, John, thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Okay, that's John Walters. He does the play-by-play for the Iowa State Cyclones, and they've got a massive game as they entertain the BYU Cougars on Saturday, 1:30, I think is the time locally here for us to watch that ball game. I think if BYU manages to get the win, man, that puts them really, really more so in the driver's seat, even more than they are now, for sure. All right, stay with us. We'll get you caught up on what you may have missed. The Jazz with a sensational, scintillating opening game for Game 1 as they roll over the Clippers. We'll talk about that next and get you caught up, as I said, right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's game week for the Utes, and the KSL Sports Zone is getting you ready for kickoff. The rivalry game may be over, but Big 12 play continues on for Kyle Whittingham and the Utes as they welcome in Coach Prime and Colorado to Rice-Eccles Stadium. Listen all week long for the best coverage of Utah football and your chance to win tickets to the game. Then catch college football Saturday, game day at 10 a.m. with the postgame show immediately following the game on KSLSports.com.
Let's go then. Let's go, baby.
Your home for the best coverage of Utah football is live on air, online and on the KSL Sports app. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
33-16. Clayton with a steal. Outlet to Bailey. Ace big steps to the rack. Rises with a right hand. Cocks and hammers. Timeout, Tyronn Lue. Utah 35. Clippers 16. Hey, how about this? Wow. Wow. Wow.
Man, I don't know. I just don't know about that. What I do know, though, is the Slacker Radio headlines are brought to you by Trajan Wealth. Call Trajan Wealth today, your local trusted financial fiduciary. And the website is Trajan Wealth. I'll get you their phone number because they've changed their phone number, right? Yeah, they have changed their phone number. Isn't that, Yak? You got the new phone number available there for you? Because I know they changed it. It's not the one that we list right now. The one that we list, 899-7600, but I think that has changed. Do you got that phone number? And Hill will get you that updated phone number here in a second. I was visiting Trajan Wealth the other day, had a great experience with Steve. Get there. They got the offices in Draper and in Farmington. 3 wows on the first game, and I don't know that you should do that. What are you going to do next? That's did David Locke breach protocol and go to the triple dog area? He didn't go with the double. He didn't stop at the double. He went with the triple. But if you evaluate that game on its own, oh my gosh, it was a triple wow. That is for sure. That was so dang impressive to see what they did in that first game against the Clippers. I don't think that you could ask for more. Everything that they needed to go right did go right, plus 2. I mean, the Clippers were 0 competitive. They're just completely and totally non-competitive. That was the first quarter. And normally in the NBA, what do you see, right? Look at the Phoenix game against Sacramento, and I bring that up because the Jazz are off to Sacramento and play them tomorrow night. Well, what do we see? That the Sacramento Kings yesterday, they get a 20-point lead, but it's in the first half, right? And what does that usually mean? That doesn't usually mean a whole lot. And sure enough, that's exactly what we saw, that the Suns came back and won by 4. Not that unusual, no. But the Clippers could do nothing. That entire game was a blowout. I was stunned and amazed, you might say. Yeah, I was. To think that it was that big of a blowout right from the start, I did not anticipate that, but yet that's what we have, or had anyway. And everybody looked good, didn't they? Just about everybody looked good. My gosh, 38 assists. Talk about passing the ball, moving the ball. That's when I think basketball is the most fun, right? When the ball is moving around. It's not stagnant. It's being placed from side to side, inside out, whatever you might have there, however you want to describe it. That's what they got. And that's when I think that the game is its best, when they have that movement of the basketball. And that's exactly what we had there last night. What does it mean? Well, I think it means that, if the Jazz play well, maybe they're capable of winning a few more ball games than we anticipated. Nothing wrong with that. Well, I guess that might be something wrong with that. If you want that draft pick to keep top 8 protected from OKC, and then also, too, if you want it in the top 2 or 3, well, a long way to go. But right off the bat, pretty doggone good. I spoke of the Kings. They lost to the Suns. Sabonis did not play. He's got a strained hammy. What does that mean for tomorrow? Don't know, but we'll see if he can play. Speaking of great games, how about Wembanyama for the Spurs? I think that if I'm going to look at my sleeper team in the West to maybe be a little bit better than we anticipate, I think I'm going with Wembanyama. How about this? 40 points, 15 rebounds, and 3 blocks against the Dallas Mavericks in Dallas. So they go up there from San Antonio and put it on them for sure. Wow. That was super impressive. Now, Wembanyama's in his 3rd year in the league, so maybe he's going to really take off and be a dominant player. They had, Dylan Harper, was he the 2nd pick, coming off the bench. He had a nice little ball game in his debut, 15 points in 23 minutes. Now, you want to talk about debuts. Wow. VJ Edgecombe, the kid that we saw play for Baylor last year, he looked awesome, did he not, for the Sixers? Absolutely. He had 34. I think they said it's the most points by a rookie in his debut since Wilt Chamberlain in 1959, 65, 66 years ago. Wow. Edgecombe's got that body, man. He's ready to go. They inserted him right into the starting lineup, and he played 42 minutes, a team-high 42 minutes, and he was not bashful. He took 26 FGAs. That's pretty impressive to go with his 34 points at 7 boards. Tyrese Maxey picking up, Paul George out. Embiid on a minutes restriction, only played 20. Plenty of shots to go around. So the backcourt of Maxey and Edgecombe, they had a combined 50 field goal attempts. That's a lot of fun for those two guys. Be jacking it up that many times? Yeah, I think so. Knicks with the big win, man. Mitchell had 31, but the Knicks, are they going to be that good this year? Remains to be seen as far as that goes. We'll see how that plays out because the Celtics, they do not have Jason Tatum, as we know, and so their availability as far as being a top team as they've been, I think, is in doubt. And the Sixers, that's who they did beat, was the Celtics there. And then how about this story, man? If you haven't heard about it, because it broke early this morning. Terry Rozier, arrested for gambling investigations, and Trailblazers coach Chauncey Billups arrested. Wow, that's crazy. Now, authorities are saying they're not connected. A wide-ranging investigations, a multiple investigation into illegal sports betting and rigged poker games backed by the mafia. Billups and Rozier were among 34 people arrested. The years-long investigation covered 11 states and involved tens of millions of dollars. Wow. My goodness. That is something.
Well, and PK, you know you have an Italian heritage, but if there's one group of people you don't necessarily want to get entangled with, it's probably the mafia.
Yeah. I think, Rozier's a player. Now, did he throw games?
What they're saying is he was providing information in terms of prop bets, so like unders and overs. On
Yeah.
He was providing information there.
We've seen that. We've seen that in the big leagues. Cleveland Guardians, a couple pitchers.
Yeah, exactly.
Arrested for that.
Well, then we
during
had
the season.
Michael Porter's brother Jonte Porter was banned for life. For doing that type of stuff. Now, the Chauncey Billups situation is a little different because they apparently were using technology for like pre-marked cards in these high-stakes poker games, and he was kind of the bait in a way for people to come play. Like, hey, come play in this poker game. Playing with Chauncey Billups over here. Come play. So apparently he was tied up in all that. So they're two separate cases, but they have crossover with Damon Jones, who's a former assistant and NBA player himself.
Right, yeah. Wow. Where does this go? Who else?
It goes to a courtroom. That's where it goes.
Yeah, these guys are supposed to make appearances today. Is Rozier? Is he done?
Well, if they can get him on any of this, the precedent with Jonte Porter, PK, would say that he's probably going to be banned for life. And they're saying that one part of the FBI investigation had him telling prop bettors to bet on him under in terms of minutes played and whatnot in a game. So he left after 9 minutes, and they found the money that he won on these bets in his home, and they counted it in his What are you doing, dude?
I know.
And he's made north of $100 million in his career.
I know.
Yeah.
Gambling is, I'm not. I don't have any qualifications to talk about that. But is it? I'd label it certainly an addiction. I've seen it. I've seen guys and people in my background, particularly when I lived back east, that it consumed them and overwhelmed them and put them in the debt. Now, a lot of these guys, they have the money to cover it because they're making big money. They don't make the kind of money that the average guy works on in a particular, 8 to 5 type of job there. But Chauncey Billups, is he going to be done? I mean, he was always looked at as sort of a statesman in the NBA, someone who came out of Colorado and, had a hard time finding his way in the league. But once he found it, he was a pretty good player and thought of as someone who was distinguished and a leader and that type of thing. And here we are. What does this mean for him? I don't know, man, it's crazy. It's just absolutely crazy. Where's Portland go from this? This has got to rock them as the season begins last night for them.
Exactly, and they had a good game against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Ultimately lost it because Ant went off for 41. But think about playing that game, having him talk to you post-game, PK. You wake up this morning and, hey, coach has been arrested. Like, good times.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to think of anything that relates to this. And a standing active coach in the professional sports is like, oh my gosh, wow. This is flat out amazing. And Wednesday being yesterday, we had the injury reports and the brevity that continues with Utah, the healthiest team in the history of college football. You see these injury reports, there's like 10, 15 guys. Utah has 2 or 3. That's about it.
Okay, and I also have to add this in PK on that front. Kyle earlier this week, Kyle Whittingham says that I don't deal with that at all. It's all on the medical team, blah, 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 blah. It's like, okay, so your medical team's providing just 3 updates? What's going on here?
Well, one of them obviously is Dampier, so that's big. He's listed as questionable, the initial availability report. I doubt that it's going to change.
It doesn't seem like it.
Just from what we know of why Kyle thinks about these things, I don't think that we're going to see him as being out. Now, I guess they can get away with it. Not away with it, it's the wrong phrase. Maybe around it is just dress Dampier.
Sure.
I think if you're, and so, like when the Devils came to town a couple weeks ago, Levitt was not dressed in as a uniform, right? Just had the boot on the foot.
Yeah, and it was the same way with BYU with Jack Kelly down at Arizona. Like, he came out, did some warm-ups, and then all of a sudden was in his sweatsuit.
Yeah, so he becomes out. So by not listing Dampier as out, as Kyle plays the cat and mouse game with this, all you got to do is dress him, and that should get him around. And I don't. Has anybody been fined on this? Or is it?
The only thing we've had so far is there was a designation for USC that they had a running back that was listed as out for their game against Illinois, if I recall correctly. And they ultimately played him in that game because the kid apparently was available. They said in an emergency situation. They lost 2 running backs in the game, so they put him into the game. They got fined $50K for that because it's obviously messing with the player availability reports. That's the only one I know of.
Yeah, that's a different conference, so we'll see. If Dampier is compromised in any way, I say don't play him.
Because no need to risk him. Yeah, I agree.
He needs to be able to run. And if he can't run, what I don't want to have happen is what we had after they have a big win against ASU and blew out the Sun Devils. Then they're telling us, oh, he was hurt back then. Okay. So what? You played him. And as Kyle said, it's up to them to put the guys who think can put them in best position to win. I'm intrigued by Bird Ficklin, see what he can do. I mean, he's looked good in mop-up duty, and he certainly looks like an athlete, but what can he do at quarterback? And I think it's important for Utah to develop a quarterback, have somebody in their program that they can count on over a number of years. You know, they've gone in the – I can't even remember. Jake Bentley comes to mind, but who was the other kid that was a transfer? And
they've had a handful of them. They've had the kid, Peter Castelli, who came in. Well, no, he was a high school that ended up transferring out. You're right.
Him and Tuttle left. But there was another kid in addition to Jake Bentley, wasn't there? I can't remember his name.
I know who you're talking about. I can see him. I can't remember his name, though.
Yeah, and he went on his way. Who was the one? Was it a kid named Brewer? Was that his name?
Charlie Brewer. That's it. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Liberty guy. Yep.
Who was the one who was threw more passes, had more completions than actual passes that he threw in the
That's
spring game?
That was Brewer. That was Pete. Our good friend DJ came back from the spring game and was absolutely enthralled because he had a perfect throwing day during a spring game.
and he thought that was it. That was the cat's meow, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, him and who was the other kid? Who was the tight end that went to Utah State that he was enthralled with for a while?
Oh, Caleb Repp.
Caleb Repp, yes. Yeah, he has his guys. He latches onto them. He won't let go.
Oh, well, he's not here to defend himself. He'll be back tomorrow, so I don't want to pile on too bad. But yeah, you got all that going on there. I would like to see a quarterback that they bring along and develop, and away he goes, right? And then, okay, he's our guy. Now, injuries happen because Dampier is their guy, but if he's hurt, he's hurt. There's not a whole lot you can do about it. And he's a smaller kid, a tough kid, real tough kid. I think he's a great leader. I hope for his sake that he's able to continue to play and do his thing. But if he can't, then I think they need to just go with Ficklin here and see what they got and figure out a game plan to work around that, and away you go. All right, stay with us. We'll get you some feedback and get you set up for Jake and Ben coming up at the top of the hour. Stay with us right here at 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. All right, thanks for joining us on this Thursday morning. DJ will be back tomorrow, and we got some feedback. Yak, you got one that you would like to interject right here and right now.
Yeah, so Menace to Society Utah, Classless Skip likes to weigh in a lot on different things. Says, hey, Jake, Utah football uses their analytics to compile their availability reports. Kyle Whittingham can't question it.
He is a little upset that the Utes didn't kick some field goals or try for some field goals the other day, that they went with the analytics, and the analytics that they subscribe to say you need to do this, this, and this, and that's what they done. And then they didn't get the first downs. It's a funny thing. If they get the first downs, they would be brilliant plays. Although you get the first down in those situations, that doesn't guarantee that a few plays later you're not trying for a field goal again. And we saw that BYU had a fake field goal in which the punter ran up the middle, got the first down, but then the offense stalled, and so all that did was get him closer to the field goal. So they ended up kicking the field goal either way. So that was there. I get that, man. Frustration when your team loses. There's no doubt about that. I still believe that the Utes should have tried a field goal, get points in that first possession, because I think analytics can tell you stuff, but I don't know that they can tell you everything that you're looking for. They can't tell you it's a rivalry game. They can't tell you that you're on the road in terms of the passion and where do you start the drive. You know, Utah in that first possession had a really nice drive going, and then they got literally nothing out of it. They used up some clock, maybe got some confidence that they moved the ball, but moving the ball is nice, but it's got to be culminated with points, and they were not in that situation able to get points. So there you go, going forward. And, you know, I think the story of the day locally is the Jazz big win, played great. I'm wondering how many games will go by before they play that well, shooting 55%, 38 assists. Walker Kessler looked like, wow, is he going to be that guy? Is he going to take that massive jump? Is it possible? Because I think that you look at the other guys, you saw that Sensabaugh scoring off the bench. Okay, maybe that's something that he can do a little consistently. If I look at things where things that I didn't expect as much, I'm not sure what to make of Sensabaugh because he's had some good games and then he disappears. Maybe not disappears, but doesn't match it. You need consistency. Marketing for his ability, well, sort of a quiet game, but very effective game, and you won. And who cares what your stats are when the team's winning? But the Keontae George, he's had better games, but he played within himself, and that's important to do. I think that, to me, the star of the game in terms of what I'm looking for progression was Walker Kessler. And he looked really good. And I put that question up on Facebook. What did you think? Justin said, best game I've watched in years from the Jazz. So much fun. But then the next guy says, that's a very Jazz way of tanking for AJ. Well, we'll see how this thing develops as the season progresses. All right. That is our show for this morning. Thanks a lot. As I said, DJ will be back tomorrow. The gang will be there on that Football Friday, and we'll have some fun. The three of us will be together again. Right now, Jake and Ben, they're coming up next, so stay with us right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.